And there we are. Hi there, how you doing? Sorry for the delay. It was not necessarily planned. I just got a bit distracted and realized like, oh shit, I should probably do my things and do all that kind of prep stuff. Sometimes, you know, just my mind wanders and get focused on other things and just forget about it. But speaking of distractions, which has nothing to do, by the way, with me being late today, I'm completely honest. It's just I literally just got distracted by other things because I stopped right before. I had a decent time, but yeah, the poll happened again. And that drive, the poll of that need of a hit for an MMO has hit again, which not specifically, you know, FF14, because and honestly to me FF14 like feels a bit different because, you know, it kind of feels more like a single player experience with the occasional like dungeon queuing. But so far FF14 to me kind of feels like the kind of like a solo experience. But yeah, the need to play an MMO, or more specifically the need to play WoW, has risen again, which I'm not proud of. To some extent, I'm not at all. I don't know why. Just at the same time with WoW and Borderlands, for some reason I kind of circled recently both of them, and I kind of felt like playing both. With Borderlands is fine because, you know, I own the game. That's completely okay. I can just jump in, have a bit of few hour or so of playing and fooling around in the game, so that's completely fine. But you know, with WoW, I had to choose something different, I suppose. And thinking about it, I was like, well, there are private servers out there, and there is one that I really like, which kind of follows within that kind of classic-esque aesthetic, but it's a bit more it also does a few things a bit more differently, and the more I looked at it, the more I kind of am intrigued by it. And honestly, I would love to cover it. I would love to talk about it, but specifically I'm talking about Turtle WoW. I started playing a bit. They had like a because they announced recently, I think somewhere at the beginning of August, that they released a new EU realm for the server, just for people to start fresh, where, you know, they also are pushing the classic phases from the start, so you can also have a bit of time. It's also a realm that gives you a bit of an opportunity to kind of, you know, experience the phases, although they're moving pretty fast. I think it's already on phase 2. But aside from that, because, you know, I'm gonna just rant off about like the phases and all that, it apparently got like into some like big changes, like apart from the recent patch. I think this patch is they have like a major update patch pretty recently for it, but the one prior to it, which they are calling it 1.7, which was called 1.17, because in simplistic terms, Turtle WoW started from a 1.12 WoW classic WoW vanilla client, but they started doing a bit of like custom content and very in kind of this vein of vanilla plus-esque kind of behavior, where their whole idea is, you know, we keep all the existing content as is, and we start enhancing already the existing experience. Not changing anything from what it from how you experience the game and what is the end game content, but adding a bit more extra here and there, a new way, added a few extra new things for you to experience as you level, a few new zones, some new playable races. So far, it's the High Elf and the Goblin, which, you know, Alliance and Horde respectively. Which, you know, with a few extra, you know, race and class combos that Classic did not have available, which are completely reasonable. That offered. And a few extra content, like some new zones, even revived cut content zones, like Mount Hyjal. They even added, for those who may be familiar with some of the cut content from Vanilla, in Easter's Kingdom, in the southern region of Stranglefall Vale. Next to that zone, there should also be, in the beta versions or alpha versions of the game, before the original 04 release, there were 2 islands that were kind of like sketched out, or kind of planned out initially there, but have been cut for content during its release. They've resurfaced those. They've added Gilneas, but in a more kind of classic-esque style. It's not literally just, you know, the Cataclysm Gilneas ripped from Cataclysm and placed in WoW Classic. No, although I've seen another like Vanilla Plus server doing that. No, they did just reinterpret it in a more classic fashion, and that's kind of what they're doing with all the content that they're doing, that they're adding. It's kind of, they're still keeping that that kind of design method and design approach, but they are also adding a few sensibilities and a few extra things of quality of life here and there. But recently they've done like a big thing, because one of the things that they have not really altered too much at the beginning, up until like 1.17, were the classes. They added like a few changes here and there, so some of the more unreliable specs at the very least saw some playtime. Probably one of the most infamous ones being like the Paladin, not really being more than just a healer in a WoW Classic, and added a few abilities which were technically cut content from pre-beta, and did all that. But actually, but mostly smaller changes of the overall classes, and maybe a few like talent tree tweaks here and there. But apparently in 1.17, which is a patch that got released some while back, I think in like 2015, something like that, like a year ago, they did like a big shift, and did like a pretty big shift in kind of class overhauls, but not necessarily in the sense that they are completely different. No, they still kept the general idea of all the classes. It's exactly, they feel exactly how you think they would feel in WoW Classic, but they reinforced some distinction and identity between all the three specs. So like any boilerplate specs now have a bit more usability, and in other ones they've actually changed a few ideas in a way that they would fill a purpose, because at times you know, a lot of the specs did not necessarily go that way. Because I can give you like an example. As I said, the Paladin is a good example. Aside from playing Holy to be a healer for like anything endgame content, Paladin were not really viable. Like, yeah, you could tank in leveling, but that was kind of it. From that point on, you could not you cannot compare with the you know, the big warrior, or even, you know, the off tank that usually is the druid. Not even in that area and that sort of thing. And now it actually has what I've heard, a lot of viability and playstyle within a ton of content, which is really nice. Plus, of course, the red retribution as well is a bit of a more viable DPS option. They added a few more distinctions. One that I really found interesting is like in the Warlock, they made a few changes. Affliction feels a bit more affliction. The demonology has like this interesting idea where it's all about kind of buffing your resources, as at the same time with also heavy emphasis on your demons. And also this aspect of making demons a resource, because it even has a few talents where you can use demons as with your demonic sacrifice to gain like buffs, and basically play Warlock demonless, so basically petless, kind of similar to how you can do it with Hunter in retail. And from my understanding, even in this version of this private server, you can also have that option of playing a petless Hunter. And, you know, and even made Destruction a bit more of a viable kind of DPS spec. But, you know, more of the burster type, while the dot, you know, is more of a, you know, taking away at the enemies. Which to me, that's really interesting. And a lot more other changes. And to be fair, this is a thing I could talk about like for a long time, because it definitely shifted in what I kind of wanted and what I envision to be kind of like a Classic Plus experience, where it's not just about, you know, adding new things for the end game content and just keeping whatever no, it's not just, no, it's because I've seen, because I even look, it was like a forum post about this update, and I've seen like some of the community and like some of the more vocal and top posts that I've seen from within that forum were really in disagreement, or like really against it, because they said like, this is not classic, this is not vanilla. And I'm like, yeah, because it's a vanilla plus. Like, if you want no changes but at the same time also a vanilla plus experience, that's kind of contradictory, because vanilla plus should not necessarily represent just end game content. Like, oh yeah, you experience the game and the classes and all that the way, you know, vanilla has it, and then just add new raids, just add new, I don't know, end level and max level, you know, content areas to, you know, I don't know, grind or do reputations or do content or other forms or anything like that, or new battlegrounds. No, a Vanilla Plus experience is the entire thing, because Vanilla is also about the leveling journey. That's a big part. That's why like Vanilla was like such an important thing, because the leveling 1 to 60 was also a journey, was also an experience. And if you want retention is given a lot with replayability. And how do you add replayability? Add new zones that are, you know, for leveling, which they've done. Like a ton of the new zones they added, they are actually leveling zones. They're not really endgame content zones. Very few of them. I think Highjaw is one of the few newer zones for that they added. One of the extra zones that they added that it's actually endgame content. Anything else, it's no. Most of a lot of the new zones are within leveling areas and at leveling rates like 30s, 40s, maybe sometimes 50s, 20s, that kind of thing. Like, yeah, add new content for players to try out and experience and feel like, hey, let me make a new character and let me experience this new zone. And while you're experiencing this new character, why not also play this a new spec about it? And why shouldn't you also play a spec that maybe got some changes? Because even in Vanilla, some classes, the way they played at the beginning of Vanilla changed by the end of it. So that's never, you know, no changes. Like, again, which is very contradictory to the idea of I want Vanilla Plus, but I also want no changes. No, because Vanilla Plus is also, it's the same thing as the experience you'd have from Vanilla from 1.1 to 1.12. It's an evolving experience where things get tweaked, enhanced, improved. And that's kind of what the Tetraworld, like, designers and developers have done. Like, they looked at the classes, they saw that, yes, each class has a good thing, but let's also add some viability to some other stuff and do all those things. And to me, that's kind of an interesting thing. I would fucking talk a ton about it. I really would love to, and I would really love to cover it. But the first problem is Twitch does not like streaming private servers. For some reason, it's really kind of a big no-no about it. It's more of an unspoken rule, but I've heard some people have been hit by Twitch because of that. And yeah, so if I'll ever cover it or I ever stream it, it might be something like YouTube exclusive. If I'll ever do it, I'll have to think about it, if that's gonna ever be a thing. But to be fair, what I would like to do, and that's also one of the reasons why I'm kind of holding off on it, is because aside from having they have a dedicated team that does all this kind of Vanilla Plus content, they also have a dedicated team where they're doing an entire brand new port of the 1.12 client into Unreal Engine 5. Mostly because, you know, that would enable them to more easily add new content, more easily manage aspects of the game, and you know, I'm guessing certain client limitations or, you know, scripting limitations that probably just working from a client currently posed to them would be removed, because, you know, they have access to all the inner workings of the game by making a recreation of it on Unreal Engine. And the concept is really interesting. I think, and honestly quite ambitious. I'm really curious to see what kind of comes out of it, which is why it's one of the reasons why I'm kind of also holding off, because I would love to just make a stream and show like, hey, let's check custom content made by this game. I've technically done a bit, but again, I stopped because Twitch does not like it. I could do it like on a YouTube thing, but I kind of like want to hold off and see when that Unreal release for their client comes up, because that would be interesting. Because I'm really curious what exactly is going to come out of it, because it's honestly ambitious. I've not seen really a lot of people taking all kind of take of it. Also, hi there, comrade. Sorry, I was just in my own rant, and I wanted to be done with the rant before getting in here. Just currently just warming up, doing a few things and just chatting about, because, you know, I once again got the MMO fever, which is not Final Fantasy 14 related. It's just WoW related, because I enjoy WoW and I still enjoy like the classic experience and all that that kind of stuff. And because, you know, I'm broke as hell. Of course, I cannot pay right now for a sub or retail or anything of the sorts. So I decided to jump on a private server that I've known of it for a while, and I've played a bit on and off, not too much, just a bit, that I really like and I find interesting, which I just mentioned. Which, yeah, I would love to like cover and talk about it, because it's honestly, it's really ambitious, and I think they've done all of this for like the passing of 7 for 7 years already. Because right now they have this kind of like anniversary thing on the server that is happening, and, you know, they said like, hey, 7-year anniversary. They've been doing this for 7 years, and there's a lot of like ambition and love for the game, and I don't know, I personally see that kind of would be the vision. That's my vision of Vanilla Plus, in my opinion. Like, yeah, there's still the existing content, there's still the existing experience, but there's also a bit of enhancement, also a bit of a, you know, shift and pull to see, like, let's try new things. Because from when I looked at the patch changes and all that, like, overall, like, where things were solid even in vanilla, even in classic, they kept it. Like, they maybe just simply at most they might have just more emphasized that aspects. For example, because again, I made a warlock because, of course, my off character that I'm not gonna, if I'm ever gonna cover this, I want to cover new content, so I made a Forsaken Warlock, because I'm not gonna make another Warlock for if I do this game again. If I'll cover Total War, I'm not gonna make another Forsaken Warlock, because I've already gone through the leveling experience from 1 to 60 with already on stream, so I'm not gonna do it again. I'll do something different. So I made like a Warlock, and the Affliction overall is it's definitely changed, especially towards the final tiers, because I looked a bit into it. I'm at the moment I'm like level 10, something like that. I just played for a bit yesterday, and but overall Affliction is like mostly the same. It just has emphasized, it has swapped a few abilities to kind of, and added a few new extra abilities to kind of emphasize more the idea that Affliction is a dot spec, while Destruction is a burst DPS spec, you know, casting type of spec. And, you know, Demology is very pet focused. So, you know, it's still mostly the same. Like, honestly, what it removed, because the capstone has been removed, it no longer has Dark Pact, it has a custom new spell, which honestly, I prefer it more, because Dark Pact as a capstone, like, yeah, it's really good for classic WoW, because, you know, Dark Pact gives you mana by taking mana from your pet, but that is important as a caster, because especially in later levels you're gonna become really mana dependent. But for a class that can already generate mana in so many other ways, you have drain mana, you have life tap, which is a signature ability of the warlock. Dark Pact is just a way that it has a bit more diminishing return. Like, it has the least diminishing, like least trade-offs, because yeah, you take mana from your pet and give it to yourself instead, and that means that technically your pet cannot necessarily do damage, but you'll be able to do damage, which by comparison you'll do more. Yeah, that's kind of the general, that's kind of the smaller trade-off of all the three, but that's not like an amazing like capstone, and they just changed that to have like a more interesting capstone, and they focused a lot more on the channel abilities alongside the dots, so that's like really cool. So yeah, that's basically it overall. Like, but by design it functions exactly the same. So, and that's kind of the philosophy they done with all the other classes. Like, if the playstyle was solid in classic and good and didn't require changes, we're not gonna change it. At most, we're just gonna emphasize that and also put into spotlights the other underperforming ones. Because, for example, Druid, they've done the same. They brought Boom King a bit more up forward as well. Equally to, you know, I think adding a bit more extra distinction from feral tanking and feral DPSing. As I said, with the Paladin, they added a decent amount of changes to make them viable for tanking, DPSing, and aside from just being the you know, healer buffer slot forever. One that I found like really cool, they changed some aspects in the rogue to, because honestly the DPS exclusive classes are a bit of the more interesting ones, because, you know, when it comes to DPSing, you definitely have to make some major shifts to make each spec distinct, aside from just be like, oh yeah, for example, you know, Mage, of course, Frost has dominated for a good while in early classic, because, you know, most of the end game content is against fire elementals or fire based enemies, so that means that, you know, you need to play a spec that does not rely on fire because of the elemental resistance. But then and then later down the line you swap from frost to fire, because Naxxramas is more ice focused and all that kind of thing. Like, yeah, that's one aspect, but there's also they made some changes to add more distinction in how they play, and like one that I found really interesting, and to the point where it actually made me makes me think if I should do it or should play it or not. For the rogue, they emphasize a bit more. They shifted slightly more with the combat to be more like combat, like, and have a bit more cleave. Assassination is more poison focused and has interesting aspects, but subtlety, the spec that I would always, it was my least disliked, mostly because every time to me subtlety felt like a very forced kind of, this is your PvP spec. You're not really gonna use it for anything else, especially in early expansions. Like in later expansions, yeah, they added some new abilities, added some things that allow you to make it usable in a PvE content, but subtlety always performed well in PvP, which is not my thing. I'm not a PvPer. But here they made some changes with the talent tree and the spec, where they actually, it's a utility spec. It's actually a kind of a utility support spec for the damage dealer, where you are basically assisting your party by giving, a damage mitigation, other things like that, because you have stuff like smoke bombs and distractions and that kind of thing, where it's not only you benefiting from mitigation, but you're also getting you're offering that mitigation to your entire party or raid team, which I think like that's a really cool concept. Like especially for someone who mostly plays more in the support roles in other games. In MMOs, I mostly focus on DPS, but simply because it's an easier role. It doesn't because I've always been an on and off MMO player, so taking more high responsibility roles in in quotations, in a bit it's not something I've committed to. But DPSs that offer a bit of utility always sound, or a bit of support always sound interesting to me, and that one is an interesting change that I don't think I've seen anyone take that kind of approach, which is definitely more interesting, and definitely kind of gives you a reason why, hey, let's have a subtlety rogue, because these utilities would be really useful to us, to the point where I think I would probably try out leveling one at some point. Who knows? But honestly, I think I probably would cover Paladin, because I think the Paladin definitely has the biggest shift and change, because the Paladin is probably the one that's been shafted the worst in a classic. Because yeah, you have the healer options, but technically you have better healers outside of the Holy Paladin, because you have the Holy Priest, well, and and the Druid. So technically you have some other better-ish healers. So the Paladin being only good at healing in OG Classic has always kind of given you that feeling that Paladin was definitely kind of bottom of the barrel as compared to the rest of the classes. Each of the other classes at the very least felt like they had something for them that was going well. Druid overall was decent for leveling, for and off tanking, and their healing spec is decent, although I don't think it's their best, but out of all the healers, but at least it's good. Priest, of course, fucking full on heal bots. To that well, warriors dominated the tanking scene. Also, the DPS had all of their niches. Frost, mages for their AoEs and crowd control. Warlocks for their high burst and dot damages. Rogues, decent like melee DPSs as well. Hunters, also really good range DPSs. So yeah, everybody kind of had at the very least a spec to fill in a niche, but Paladins to me always felt kind of like the middle child, and they've had that. There have been some, mostly rumor talk. It has never been confirmed, but some people have kind of rumored or speculated that early designers or lead designers of WoW Vanilla before its before the 2004 release might have actually didn't really like the Paladin, hated the class design, and didn't like designing that specific class, which is why it felt like it had the least amount of care and love put to it. And mostly probably because I think there's probably an animosity, because Paladin was present mostly because I think of people like Chris Metzen, because Chris Metzen was a big fan of the themes and thematics and identity the Paladin had within the Warcraft universe. So of course, Chris Metzen wanted to bring that Paladin from the very beginning into WoW. So probably that's where it was. I think some people like mentioned that there might have been this weird animosity because, you know, the paladin was kind of like forced into the game, and the designers at the time didn't really want it, or didn't want to have that class in the game, or not prepared. Or didn't necessarily have a vision. But yeah, again, nothing confirmed. That's just been purely rumors. And to be, I could see it, I could not see it. It's weird. It's odd to say. To me, it's definitely, to me, I think it feels, to me personally, and I think some people have also voiced at it, I think the class itself, more than anything, felt like it was, it had it definitely came from the very beginning with this, with a different vision when it comes to like playstyle. It was probably envisioned as being this kind of like buffer class, but they were kind of struggling how to execute that concept of being this kind of more buffer support type of class at the time, which I'm pretty sure, like, I'm not sure how many MMOs during those times really had something that was kind of like exclusive to that concept, and you know, and how exactly others approached it. Hard to say. So probably, I'm guessing that's probably that's where the issue was. The class had a vision that was hard to execute at the time, or at the least the lead designers, they couldn't be able to figure out how exactly to properly execute it within the time constraints that they had with the development. So they had to kind of scrounge around and at the least make something passable that the players could use, which is why they left it in such a, you know, kind of unfinished state, how it feels like, because, you know, everybody kind of knows the infamous, you know, leveling playstyle of the retail or vanilla or the classic, or better said, the classic or vanilla paladin, which is mostly just auto attack. That's all you do, auto attack with just a bit of a buff effect on your auto attack, but that's basically it, which is not too impressive. Not much of a rotation for a long while. Not much of a rotation. Like, yeah, you get your seal, you then pop the seal, and then you reapply the seal, and that's it. And all the while you do that, you just simply auto attack. That's kind of the general rotation that you have for that class in main vanilla, in unchanged vanilla. So yeah, and to me, like, yeah, it's an experience. It has its charm, and I'm saying this as someone who's leveled the paladin up to like at least 30-ish, 30, 34, something like that. I think that's because I leveled it in classic. That's, I think, where I got with that paladin, and I didn't necessarily stop because I didn't want it to continue. It's just, I don't know, other things came around and I haven't played afterwards. That's basically it. No other reason. But yeah, me just going the full ass rant about WoW, while today we should be talking about other things. But again, this is just the general warm up for the stream before we get into the actual meat of things. So yeah, it's a thing. I'll think about it. I'll think how exactly I did, because as I said, it's something I cannot do it on Twitch. If I were to cover it, I just cannot do that. Oh, hey there, Glitchy. How you doing? Let me quickly give you a shout out. It's been a while. I'm not sure you're still doing like things on the end of things, but oh, you still do some stuff. Oh, we play some Peak. Hope you had some fun with that. I've seen Peak. I don't have the game, unfortunately, but it sounds like a lot of fun. It's only, honestly, a lot of like most of the like these kind of like co-op team-based ones. I'm good. How it's been a while. I'm doing fine. Just general rants before getting into the main topic of today. Because yeah, again, I got the itch for like MMOs, or more specifically, I got the itch for WoW for multiple reasons. The Midnight things have been really interesting that they have announced with the expansions, and I really like, especially as a Blood Elf enjoyer. I've also found out that the Legion remix is happening right now in WoW, and Legion is one of my favorite expansions, and I cannot fucking play it, and I'm sad about that because I love the Legion. You know, those kinds of things, and you know, I kind of got the age of like trying to play WoW, and right now I'm too broke to even, you know, pay a sub to at the very least play Classic. Oh, I decided, hey, why not? Let me just play some let me play a private server that I really like, that is more of a vanilla plus kind of custom server. And I haven't checked out that server for a long time, and they've done a ton of big changes to it, and that I really like, and I kind of find the approach really interesting, and I think really worth talking about it. But as I said, it's weird because Twitch is not really a big fan of streaming, you know, content from things like private servers or anything that could be associated to I don't know, semi-piracy, semi-illegal. Even though it's private servers have always been, at the least when it comes to WoW, have always been a known thing and kind of an unspoken thing where the devs are aware of it, they're fine with it, unless probably there is some pressure for some other higher entities that are like, no, this encroaches on whatever, I don't know, profits or things or margins that we want to make, and we have to shut it down. AKA like back in the day before even WoW Classic became a thing. With the Australia's private server that Blizzard has shut down because it was like the most it was the most popular server for like the vanilla classic experience at the time, before before Blizzard decided to do their own vanilla servers. And then not too long after that, be like, hey, look, we are releasing our own official servers. Which I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm not expecting that a lot of the decision making was done by actual developers when it came to like shutting down or putting a stop to that. It's more one of those things. It's more one of those things with most likely it comes like with shareholders and stuff like that, where they're kind of putting the pressure like, hey, these people are kind of taking a big player base that could be our profits or whatever the shit. Our private servers, privacy, don't still have to pay for the game? Nope. Private servers are old, at least with WoW, are old as time, as old as the game. No, it's the way you play private servers, because World of Warcraft does not function, let's say, how CSGO would function, not CSGO, like how Counter-Strike 1.6 or some old source multiplayer games would work, where you have a server list that you can just write an IP and you connect to that server. No, it's a bit more involved. You require to connect to a different server when it comes to, I don't know the entire technical aspect behind it, but it's a bit of a slight alteration to the game, just a slight alteration to the main client of the game to be able to connect to a different server host, which cannot be done with the retail version of the game. No version of the official game has ever been able to allow you to do that. So in order to be able to connect to a separate server host that was a private server, you needed to have a separate client of the game. Which, how do you obtain a separate client of the game? Sometimes the private server offers you a method. For example, Turtle WoW, they have their own proprietary launcher and basically downloads you the game. To be fair, it's WoW Classic. It's not a big game. It's like 6 gig. Back in the day, it was like a big deal, but so, usually maybe the providers of those private servers gave you a way to get the game. Maybe in some cases you had to find your own way to obtain a client, but it definitely required like some files to modify. I don't think you were able to, but you were not able to use the main original game, the original files, because there are some stuff behind the scenes that are connected to the Blizzard servers, the Blizzard services, and all that kind of thing, which can interfere, can cause problems, so they cannot. Yeah, you don't need to own the game to play a private server. You've never needed to own one. That's why I mean that technically it's a piracy. It's technically a piracy. Again, when it comes to like classic servers, they function on an up until Wrath of the Lich King. I think I might be wrong. The game functions basically different. It functions kind of fundamentally on a different engine, and basically was constructed completely differently. Which is why it was so easy at the time to get a to get a client and make a private server for those up until like Wrath of the Lich King. For those who've been in the private server scene for World of Warcraft and have always noticed that starting from like Cataclysm onwards, if you're looking for private servers for those type of expansions, they've always been a bit clunky and always kind of not really polished and had a lot of like basically not everything worked as it would work in retail. It's simply because the engine is a lot more complex. Scripting is works in a completely different way, and probably a lot of things happen behind some editing tools that the client does not offer you. So because of that, the hosts and those who maintain the private servers have to create scripted shortcuts and that kind of thing in order to, for the, I don't know, quests or whatever it is to work. But until like Wrath of the Lich King, the client was basically on a different engine that was a lot simpler and was able to be obtained by the community and be able to create their own things. Yeah, they were basically hosting a they were not hosting an actual retail version of the game. I'm not sure if you can do it. Again, maybe back when Wrath of the Lich King and all those expansions were a thing, maybe you could have done it. I have no idea. My private server experience started from Cataclysm onwards, when Cataclysm was still current content. Which from that point on, it was heavily integrated with, you know, its own with a different engine, how things worked, you know, interconnected, you know, Blizzard services and all that kind of stuff. So it's a lot different. It's a lot harder. So yeah. But as I said, when it comes to the actual developers, the designers and the creators of the game, there's always been this unspoken, you know, unspoken thing where both parties are aware of each other. Like, you know, the developers are 100% aware. All of the developers are 100% aware that private servers exist. And I can tell you that most of them do not care. Most of them actually love that people have private servers and do their own thing and that kind of stuff. It's especially if we're talking about like older expansions, because that shows that there is still love and care and want for those older experiences as current content, which is why, you know, the classic server was such a big hit and all that. Yeah, it's completely okay. I think the Nostralia's thing was probably a pressure that was given by, I'm guessing, shareholders and that kind of thing. People that care about the money, not necessarily, you know, the money and business aspect, not necessarily the creators themselves. I'm pretty sure like most of the creators did not care, or actually were completely fine with it. I'm pretty sure. I don't think there's ever been like a hatred. And in some cases, like, you know, at times developers can even reach out privately to those people, like, again, privately, not publicly in any way, and be like, hey, we really like what you're doing. It's really cool that, you know, you have so much appreciation for this, that kind of thing. Again, I'm just you know, creating the scenario. It's not something that actually, at the very least, nothing that Blizzard ever admitted. But I know with other games, it came to like, especially like modding scene, for example. That's another thing. Developers have always been okay with the modding scene. Add-ons are kind of an equivalent to that, but they are, you know, a lot more sensible and limited. Add-ons cannot be used for anything cheaty or anything of the sorts. But yeah, has always been like an unspoken rule. So yeah. But yeah, anyways, when it comes to, as I said, weird rant with WoW, I would cover its own thing, but as I said, Twitch just does not like it because it's a weird scenario. It's not like something that it's heavily enforced, or at the very least, from what I know, it's not something that it immediately happens. Because I'm telling you this from a personal experience. I did stream 2 times, on specifically on Turtle WoW. I did stream twice, on that game, a while back, way back. I think more than a year ago. I did stream that private server. Nothing happened. Like, I was like immediately stricken down and all that, because I think they have to. That's one of the things where you have to like manually check probably, and people have to like actively report, or if somebody or some Twitch staffer comes across that stream, that may be a problem. But otherwise, I don't think so. But again, it's one of those things where you're kind of gambling with it. I don't know why Twitch specifically. I think from what I know, YouTube is fine with it. So I might do it on YouTube if I want to cover it, but again, I do not know. And as I said, I would probably want to wait until they do that kind of like big Unreal Engine, because to me that one is like really interesting and kind of fascinating, to take the entire 1.12 client and adapt it and recreate it from scratch in Unreal Engine, which again, as I said before, it gives them a lot more freedom, because hosting a private server on an existing game client is a bit limiting, because you don't have access to all the tools or the ways that, you know, developers can change and maintain and add new content to the game. There's always some limitations about it that you have to kind of take in account, or you have to do some workarounds about it, which they're not the most. Sometimes they're not the either not efficient or not necessarily. They might be a bit clunky at times. They're not very graceful in a way. So by shifting it to actually putting it into into its own engine, where they can manage everything from the smallest detail to the biggest, that's like a big thing. Again, I think they're still kind of cautious about it. I think I've heard at the very least the trailer, when they announced it, has been content claimed by Blizzard or something like that, which does not necessarily surprise me. But one of the things that I'm probably going to keep an eye out is what exactly is going to happen when its inevitable release is going to be around the corner. Because, again, it's a complete recreation, almost complete recreation, but of course with its own while at the same time also adding all the custom content to it, because that's kind of their plan. I think right now they're just starting from the existing client, and then once they have all those building blocks put together, they're also going to add all the content that they've added to the current Turtle WoW client. So they also have all the custom content on it, which at that point, yeah, it would be a more of a custom recreation of the game. So it wouldn't necessarily be a one-to-one replica, especially because, you know, they've done significant class changes to the game and all that kind of thing. So you could call it kind of like a fan game, or there is like a fan adaptation, some degree, which I think in legal ways, I think it's completely fine, especially because, you know, they're not earning money out of it. Yeah, they have a donation shop, like most private servers do, because hey, hosting costs money. So at the very least, they're hoping from the willingness of the community, but it's not an exchange of goods and services, or it's not like you know, paid access. They don't pay you to get access to the game. You can play the game for free. You cannot even be a paid player in any degree. So I think legally it should be fine. I think, again, it's gonna be interesting to see, because some aspects of this kind of thing, they've always been sometimes nebulous, and, you know, with enough money you can find a lawyer that can probably argue whatever the fuck you want, and be able to, you know, remove something out of it. So, you know, that's like another thing. It's also to see like the willingness of Blizzard, but I feel like it should be fine. And at the end of the day, Nostralis was I think it was a different story, because it was all about, you know, it was a full-on vanilla experience from start to finish. It was nothing else. It was just playing vanilla start to finish, which that is a significant chunk of the World of Warcraft community that was interested in that. The Vanilla Plus experience is an even nicher community from that from the vanilla community. It's a smaller niche. It's a cut of that community, and even more specifically, people that are looking into the Turtle WoW specific Vanilla Plus experience, because, you know, every private server creator that, you know, makes their own Vanilla Plus servers approach it in a different way, because there are like a few of them out there that I've seen. Azeroth of War, Duskhaven is another one that I've seen. I checked a few of them back a few years back, because I was like kind of curious about that scene for a while, and each of them kind of takes a bit of a different approach. And I thought, you know, they, you know, they cover different interests. So that's that's kind of what I mean. I think it's definitely going to be a specific cut of the community, which I'm not sure is going to be as significant as just the community wanting to playing Vanilla WoW, which now, you know, they are able to, you know, they've already now made their market for it with the addition of classic servers. So I don't think they have to worry about that. So I don't think I wouldn't necessarily expect for Blizzard to make like a move towards it, but at the same time, it wouldn't surprise me if they would. So you know, it's that kind of. But I'm pretty sure, like, I'm guessing the devs are playing it carefully, and I'm guessing they've looked into it pretty heavily to see how exactly they can approach it and make sure that, you know, they don't get into trouble. So, you know, and again, usually with all these things, as long as the game is freely available, which any private server is, all private servers are usually. I don't think I've seen any private server that has the paid access. So, you know, as long as it's not made intended with the intention to make a profit, then that's completely fine, which they don't. Like, yeah, they have a community that supports them and, you know, offers donations and all that kind of stuff, but it's, again, it's a donation, not... It's not something that, you know, you gain... It's not something to give the access to parts of the game or anything like that. Like, yeah, the donations can be exchanged for like, some sort of currency, and you can use it for like a shop, but believe me, I checked the shop. All of it, it's stuff like you know, customization, mounts, pets, and everything like sensible even in that end. Like when it comes to like mounts and pets, nothing that would give you an advantage. Gameplay, they have like a few gameplay things, but they're purely for quality of life. Things like, oh yeah, you can summon a mailbox or an auction house or a not an auction house, an auctioneer, or, you know, you can summon a vendor to repair your gear, or, you know, convenience. Yeah, you have a few paid things that could be for pure convenience, but not to give you an actual edge in the full-on game combat. Like, yeah, a mailbox, an auctioneer, a bank that can be, you know, summoned at your will. That's not that big of a deal. That's something that happens in retail. It's not it's just a you're just paying for convenience, not necessarily paying for anything big. So in my opinion, that's okay. It's fine. It's not that big of a deal. It doesn't offer an edge over like important aspects of the game. So that's it. Like, to me, I feel like that's fine. Like the exchange of, you know, donation for some tokens that give you access to a few like things to customize or have access to some collectibles that you think they're fun. Completely okay, in my opinion. Not that big deal. Oh yeah, sorry, yeah. Apparently this entire hour has just been me yapping about WoW. I'll think about it if I'll decide to cover anything of that sort. Again, another reason aside from just having to aside from needing it to be a YouTube exclusive thing, like if I were to stream it, right now, because, you know, YouTube is kind of my lower thing. I don't have it's still a bit nebulous, and it's probably one of the reasons why I'm willing to wait out a bit until like that the Unreal Engine kind of, you know, version of it comes out, because I'm hoping by that time I'll figure out some things with the YouTube side of my content, because right now it's a bit nebulous. Like some of my shorts, I've had like one that like blew up recently, but after that, some of the more recent ones have fucking tanked to the point where like some didn't even reach anyone. Like even today, they still have like 0 views, and they've been released for like, I don't know, a few days already, and then have had no views, which is really weird. Like, yeah, I had like a breakout one that got me in the thousands of views, and then just my most recent ones have got nothing. So it's really weird. I'm not sure if somehow I've been like slightly shadow banned, or if there is such a thing of being slightly suppressed from you know, general feed reachability or anything like that. I have no idea. The YouTube short thing works differently than how YouTube you know, all the other YouTube content stuff works, so I have no idea. First performance is so, yeah, it's very unpredictable. Like that's, and then I'm trying to like figure out, and but you know, to be fair, even on the end of even with the videos, I've had like really short reach that end. Like when I because on the channel that I use the shorts is also the channel where I archive or more, and now it's also the channel where I do my multi-stream, because I also multi-stream. I don't say it too often because Twitch is a bit pissy about that, but everything that you see here that is viewable on the actual stream screen is from Twitch, so Twitch should not be against it. The chat is Twitch exclusive. The notifications, aside from Kofi, are Twitch exclusive. But even so, with Kofi, it could be just donators from the Twitch side of things. Again, everything else is Twitch exclusive, so it's completely fine. But I don't say it too often. But yeah, I'm multi-streaming and it's the same channel. I have a few like views reach here and there, but again, it's not necessarily the same. It's technically to similar-ish numbers, but once the live gets archived, it doesn't really bump up into many views. It gets a few here and there depending on the game. Some have better, some have performed better, some have performed worse. So who knows? I might try to do that exclusively in the hopes that maybe you know, I will also have a bit of reachability. You know, one of those things like don't have all your eggs in one basket, because something could change with the platform and all of a sudden you're out of a community. So I've always wanted to do something YouTube specific or YouTube exclusive, and things within this area were definitely one of them. Because while private servers or like MMO private servers are not the only the only types of games that I would probably just cover YouTube exclusively. Like anything that is related to like game revivals or, you know, to any extent, I would probably just cover it on YouTube just to be safe, because there's some other ones that I've seen in the past that I really enjoy. There is a StarCraft 2 mod called Resurgence of the Storm, which is a community recreations of Heroes of the Storm, which is one of my favorite MOBAs. Like that and Smite, those were my MOBAs that I played. I've never been a League player, and I was kind of disappointed and sad when I heard that, you know, Heroes of the Storm has been thrown into maintenance hell like StarCraft. And there's been like a community effort with StarCraft 2 in the StarCraft 2 modding scene, where literally they recreated the entire MOBA within there. It literally has all the assets, everything. They even created new heroes. It doesn't have the entire full roster that the current Heroes of the Storm ended it. It has like a set amount of characters from within that roster. Even some heroes receive some reworks that to make them a bit more viable. Like Arthas is a fucking menace in that game. But again, it would have this. I think it would have a similar issue as the private servers. It's a recreation of the game. I'm not sure exactly how Twitch receives it, and I just want to be safe about it. Even though it's a modding thing, but it's a mod that recreates an existing IP. Even though it's a free-to-play IP, again, it's one of those weird things. I do not know how Twitch approaches it. So for any sort of content that kind of goes in that vein, where I'm just checking people doing some sort of like recreations or revivals of existing of older IPs that maybe have been lost to time or are a bit more I don't know, or no longer hold up with, I don't know, current hardware and software things, I would probably check it. I would like to, you know, cover it on YouTube, either as a stream or maybe some other thing. Who knows? So far, I've not thought about doing like the actual, you know, content, like making like scripted videos or anything like that. I'm not even sure what exactly I want to do in that area or what niche, because I don't necessarily want to do let's plays. If I want to just play the game and just yap around and talk shit or do anything like that, I'll just do a stream instead. I think that to me that's more than enough. I wouldn't necessarily do you know, highlighted content of that kind of stuff. Or if I were to ever do it, I would probably do it at a point where I can maybe hire somebody to do that thing, because I don't think I have the patience right now or time to kind of scrub to my VODs and do like highlights or like a highlight video, edited video. I don't know. But yeah, that's kind of what I would probably wanted to do it for, like as a YouTube thing. Like another example, like there's currently a project that I've seen. There's nothing public yet. Mostly just a select few of people that the creators have teamed. There is like a revival project for Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines. But from my understanding, they've shifted a bit because there have been some legality issues with when it comes to like Activision and all of that, because Bloodlines has kind of lost ownership across the years because of White Wolf's bankruptcy at the time. Even though now White Wolf is back up again, but I don't know where the ownership for Bloodlines goes anymore. But anyways, weird legality things, and they had to make decided to shift gears a bit, where some of the content that is considered proprietary to Activision has to be removed, but anything that is proprietary to White Wolf is kept. So it's gonna be a Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines. They call it like reawakened. Like, yeah, it's gonna be a recreation of that game within the Skyrim engine. By the way, it's literally a full-ass Skyrim mod, but turned into a standalone game. But it's also gonna have some alterations in some of the stories and characters, because some of it's owned by Activision, and Activision kind of said a big no-no, because the creators have had to reach out to the studios to make sure that they're not gonna get into legal troubles if they wanted to continue the project. But again, it's a really interesting one. But once again, I don't think it's a project that I will be able to cover it on Twitch. So yeah, a lot of like weird things like that. So I'll have to think about it. But anyways, so I'm gonna take a quick break, as an ad is about to pop up in a few seconds, and once the ad is over, I think I'm gonna jump into the actual topic of today's stream and do those shenanigans instead, and let what I've talked about for another time. Yeah, I'll see you in a few minutes. Okay, now actually guess the topic of today. Yeah, I guess, I don't know, unexpectedly, even though I've decided to do this kind of like, more like warm-up brand, not to really get immediately into the thing that I'm planning to stream. Just, people trickle in, all that kind of thing, have a bit of like, vibes of kind of chatting type thing. And yeah, maybe some people get confused whenever I have like a, I'm X category, but I'm just out here yapping. It's mostly because, brain does brain things. I've had a situation where I forgot to change the stream category, so I just prefer to keep the category for the main topic. Know that at least for like 30 minutes to 1 hour, I'm just gonna yap about something else, and then I'm just gonna be full on just the topic. Yeah, that's kind of shenanigans. But to kind of quickly put a bow of all the things that I talked to before taking a break, I'll definitely think about it, because there is the fact that I do have an miscellaneous stream day. Like Tuesdays are a stream day where I just do whatever I feel for that week. It's no longer like a set in schedule thing like I do for my other games. Like, I have my usual Final Fantasy Tuesday, and actually Wednesday is my whatever stream day. The ttrpg things that I do today, I do every Friday, and also the indie dedicated stream every Saturday. So Wednesdays are usually a flex stream, let's call it, because maybe something comes around at some point during the weeks, and that way that stream allows me to cover it, but at the same time still keep up with the things that I was already planning to keep up with. So I'm not necessarily, I don't know, quote unquote, falling behind on things that I want to play or things I want to check out or talk about. Another thing I was like thinking, maybe bringing back another week, or maybe putting another weekend stream. I was thinking maybe doing Sundays, but kind of in a way how I was doing it in the past. Maybe doing some late Sunday, maybe early in the day kind of Sunday streams, something like that, or maybe like afternoon streams. Definitely like at a more earlier hour, mostly because I'm also planning at some point, once I'm out of all my money issues and all that, which by the way, to kind of cover it really quick, I'm right now at the tail end of my payment loans for my PC, for the PC components that I had to take. This is literally my last month for my last loan, and once I pay it, I'm completely done. I still need like around like 42-ish euros, something like that. So if you can help me reach the end of that goal and make that full bar go green by going to the coffee link that is pinned, you can have access to the command chat, or it's in the detail pages in some places with the big word donate on it, and you help me reach out. Again, one of the things that I'll definitely do is I want to participate in a charity thing that is going to happen towards the end of the month on October, which is going to be like Halloween themed. But if by the 16th of October I don't have this remaining amount covered, I think I'll have to drop off, because I'll have to prioritize me making do and trying to scrape off whatever I can to get that money. So that's one thing. I don't think I'm gonna do the ttrpg thing that I was planning to do for that event, unfortunately. Not because of this necessarily, but mostly because I wanted to do it with the escalation crew, with the usual actual play crew that I'm a part of. I wanted to to play a game with them, but I think this month is a bit kind of wonky for a few of them, so I don't think it would have panned out anyways. So at the very least, yeah, if that gets covered by the 16th, which is kind of a week from now, then I will 100% participate with my own stream for like a charity thing later in October, and we're also gonna raise money for like a good cause. But again, I'm saying this because I don't think it's fair of me to be part of a charity, but at the same time also still having to ask to pay for people to help me out financially if they can. So if this gets cleared out, then I can in good conscience do it. Otherwise, no, I'm not gonna. I might be just a participating member for other people's stream. That's something that I'm still open, and currently I've voiced my interest in participating in someone else's stream, which is actually our ttrpg adjacent, or might be adjacent to that. So at the very least that would fill in the void. But do something exclusively on my channel, I will have to drop off, unfortunately, because of that. So yeah, that's currently my push. And once this is done, this also is going to enable me to do in a clear mind, and without any kind of stress, because this is my only financial stress at the moment, to have this covered. I'm planning to do like my own actual play, like my own RPG streams. The first thing that I want to do is to keep up to my old charity goal promise of doing my own one shot. And once that happens, once this is clear, I'm gonna start planning for that one shot, which might happen either somewhere maybe in November, if not maybe somewhere early next year. Just mostly because holidays. I might have some other things planned for late November I would like to do, so that sort of things. So it's either gonna be somewhere mid-November, maybe, if we're lucky. If not, it's gonna happen late November. It's gonna happen next year, early next year, maybe January, February. We'll see. Yeah, and then after that, depending on how the crew feels and all that, I might actually do a more consistent actual play stream at a frequency. I would say at a most frequent once every 2 weeks, I would say. And my plan is to have it scheduled at the usual time that we would have had with the rest of the group, so that would be on a Sunday. And if I turn my Sundays on once again into a streaming day, I was thinking that for the days where I'm not doing a TTRPG, we could just have I could just have a different kind of stream, and maybe that could fill in the slot which could be like a YouTube exclusive stream for those days, and that'll be the thing, because I still like the idea of having my Wednesday being a flex stream. So that's kind of the thing. But yeah, anyways, that's kind of why I wanted to do this whole kind of like tangent with the coffee thing and the donation, because literally, as I said, like if I'm gonna start doing like actual plays streams on my end, for days when I'm not doing it, at the very least I would probably do some other I would probably do some other streams. So at the very least that will also become part of the regular schedule, so you will know that Sundays will also be a stream day no matter what. uh, no matter if it's gonna be a ttrpg or if it's gonna be a different stream of some other topic. So that way you have that knowledge and you can have that consistency. Although they might be at different hours. Anyways. Yeah, but again, that remains to be seen. Because I'm guessing if I'm gonna do some YouTube exclusive stream, that might actually help me out with my reachability on that end as well. If or at the very least have something for people to kind of go towards at the very least. I don't know. I'll think about it. But yeah, now let's get actually into the topic at hand. So, before we actually go full into discussing Candela Obscura and aspects of this game, first of all, this is a what I want to make clear every time I'm doing these Friday streams. These streams are dedicated for TTRPG and generally the TTRPG community, and my intent with this stream is for this to be a space where people can just talk about TTRPG in general, be it, you know, they want to talk about like a cool thing that happened, or just yap around about like how they enjoy something about something related to TRPGs in chat. Maybe they want to ask for some advice, or want to offer want to just have some general discussion about it, maybe ask for suggestions or advice from me or from some other people within the chat. The thing that I want to make it very clear is that I want to harbor here a place where people can just join in, feel free to, you know, talk about things related to this hobby and just yap off and chat off however they feel like. Me covering a topic and me covering whatever I'm doing today or on other days is purely to have something to talk about and purely to have a filler, something to have a cover and not just be here, you know, talking to the void and not really talking about anything. It's just so don't feel like you have to discuss only about things related to, like for example today, to Candela Obscura. No, you can talk about whatever game you want. Could it be D&D, Pathfinder, Vampire Masquerade, or anything in World of Darkness? I don't know, Cyberpunk Red, Lancer, whatever. I don't know, Morkborg, GURPS, whatever system you want to talk about it, go ahead and feel free and feel I honestly encourage it. I might not be knowledgeable about all the ins and outs of some of the RPGs you mentioned, because I'm still expanding my knowledge and my perspective of TTRPG and tabletop games. But at the very least, I can still be here to offer you generalistic advice. If at the very least I cannot offer you anything that would pertain to specific rulings that may not be familiar, but at the very least I can offer you advice on how exactly to approach the problem in a more generalistic way, and then, you know, apply what rulings and what you think seems fit based on that based on that logic that I'm gonna give out. Yeah, good to talk about. And, you know, if you want to know a bit of my, I don't know, I guess credentials or whatever, history or what exactly I'm knowledgeable of, or what I've done in the past. I've started playing the hobby like in 2018, like probably most people have done through D&D 5th edition. That's kind of what I played for a good set of years. I would say maybe in equal amounts, both game master and player. Then starting from last year, I've started to kind of diversify and expand a few some other games. I got into some actual plays of Vampire the Masquerade and Hunter the Reckoning 1st edition, or aka the Imbued, for those who are knowledgeable about like the what stuff and what Imbued are. But then also the Gestalt system, which is kind of like an in-betweener, I would say, between Pathfinder and D&D 5th edition. So if it's something like it's a bit more custom, it has a bit more granularity than D&D 5th edition and customizability, but not as much, or not to the same level that Pathfinder offers. So it's a bit of an in-between, but it functions fundamentally the same. It has a lot of the principles and not the mechanics that you would encounter in either D&D or Pathfinder. Yeah, that's why I played. Then I also played the Pathfinder, the remastered 2nd edition as well. So those are the places that I'm familiar with. I've also talked about like other systems, but I've not yet played. I've covered Lancer some streams past. Recently I've covered Bunkers and Badasses, which is a lot closer to a D20 system as well. pertaining to, you know, the Darrington Press publishing, I've also talked about the Daggerheart playtesting material back in the day, a year ago or so. Those were actually my first TTRPG related streams that I've covered. And today we are actually looking at Candela Obscura, and more specifically, as you can see here, I'm looking at the quick starter guide. Per the guidelines of Darrington Press, it's kind of this. It's not necessarily encouraged, or they kind of say that, you know, it's not okay to show you know, full content of any of the full release books like Candela Obscura or Daggerheart, not showing full prints or full images of the printed pages of those systems. But this being the quick starter guide that is freely available for anyone, you can have access to it on the Darrington Press website, on the Candela Obscura. Let me actually give you a link, so that way, you know, at least I'm in the clear with. Up 1 second. Minute. I'm doing it off streams just in case I don't. Okay, yeah. I think this gives you to a, yeah, this gives you to a download thing. So yeah, go to the Darrington Press /Candela, and if you go to the bottom of the web page at the resources section, you're gonna see a mention about the Candela Obscura Quick Start Guide, which is freely available. You click that link, it gets you're gonna download the quick starter guide and character sheets. So this is freely available, everyone has access to it, so I think per the guidelines this should be completely fine. Also, to be very clear, this is owned by the Darrington Press publishing. This is just me covering the content, just to be very clear. This is you know, this is a derivative form of content where I'm just commentating and looking over the freely available content of that anyone has access to it. So I don't think it's going to be an issue. So I'm hoping that it's not going to be an issue that I'm just going to show full pages, because that's usually the thing I do with most of the TTRPG streams that I cover. But to be fair, I'm not showing from top to end every literal page of a book. I just cover the what I consider the essentials, which is the general you know, the introduction section of the RPG, of the TTRPG, just to see how exactly what is exactly the summary of it, aspects of character creation, but I'm not looking in depth at every aspects of the characters. So, you know, I'm not, if let's say the character creation has things like classes or anything like that, I'm not looking at every class. I'm just looking at the character creation process, how the game is played, and also the section for the Game Master tools. But I'm not looking at the full-on compendium of items or you know, monster stats or anything like that. Anything that is started to get more into the, here's a list of things that you can have access to or you can use, but you don't use all of them at once. That's not something I cover, and that's probably gonna be something even akin to the quick starter guide. I might not cover everything. I might just cover a few aspects of it today, and I'm not sure exactly how the quick starter guide is structured. It is a bit lengthy. It has like 26 pages, so it has a good chunk of content in it, and it's not just the rulings. It has a bit of themings. It has a bit of, to be fair, Candela Obscura, from my knowledge of it is a bit more roleplay heavy, and you know, for Darrington Press would not surprise me to have systems that encourage the roleplay aspect a lot more. So that's kind of the idea of it. So yeah, it's just a quick starter guide. Unfortunately, if we're gonna cover like the full content, I'll have to think of a different way how exactly we can cover, or how exactly I can cover aspects of the of the full game for Daggerheart and Candela Obscura. Because I would like to cover the full release of Daggerheart at some point on stream, but I'll have to think about how exactly to do it, and also be in line with the guidelines. Because I want to show respect to the creators. Like, hey, if the creator said don't do it this way, but in any other way you are okay to do it, like, I want to respect that. Okay, so now let me quickly zoom, also can see what I'm looking at. So yeah, the full Candela Obscura rulebook releases in late 2023, which it's way past us. I think this quick starter guide has been released, I think, before the full release of the game. But yeah, also kind of as a content warning, the document within contains depictions of abuse of power, body horror, death, gore, and sensitive topics. Reader discretion advised. Again, being that we are in the spooky month, I thought that Candela Obscura, at the very least, a quick starter guide, feels like a good thing to cover, because it's a bit more within the horror section kind of side of it, and more akin to that. And it even has here like what exact. Oh, nice. So we have getting started, the rules, the mechanics, and the setting, and example assignment. So we even have something of how exactly the game is run. Okay, we're gonna look at the kind of getting started section, and depending on how much that covers us, mechanics. Okay, the mechanics are a bit more in depth. I'm just gonna quickly check. I'll be fair, I haven't gotten a chance to look at all of it. And the setting, I think, goes a bit more into explaining what this game setting is, which I'm not sure if I don't think I'm gonna cover all of it. Probably just some more important aspects. But yeah, let's get back to getting started. Yeah, I'm gonna do this by feel and by vibes. It's most likely that this is gonna be the only stream where I'm gonna cover it, and I'm probably gonna look into other things in next streams. It really depends on how quick I'm gonna jump into the other things as well. So that's kind of the idea. But yeah, so with getting started in Candela Obscura introduction. Candela Obscura is a horror tabletop role-playing game, or TRPG, about occult investigators who hunt down dangerous supernatural forces, making incursions into a world very much their own. Candela Obscura is also the name of the paranormal society charged with protecting the sprawling turn-of-the-century city of Newfair, a place built atop the ruins of an ancient fallen civilization, still teeming with the remnants of powerful magics. Though we've worked to collect knowledge of this magic over the centuries, our understanding of these phenomena is still limited. We know they come from a realm beyond our own, but what they want and why they're here, that's a mystery to us. As part of this organization, you will traverse the wide landscape of the Fairlands, facing off against unfathomable horrors within the crowded downtown street of the Varnish, investigating strange disappearances in the gorefields of the Tottergrass, even delving into the writhing underground ruins of Old Fair, to help us stop these powerful supernatural beings from tearing the world apart. Yeah, big spooky things are still around the world, and we have to make sure that they don't make big ouchies. So, for content warning and safety tools, though the intensity of the horror in your adventure is entirely up to you, terror should come as no surprise for any who embark upon an assignment with Candela Obscura. Elements of body horror, human cruelty, violence, death, and the supernatural commonly present themselves for investigators. Such things come with the territory. In order to help regulate these topics within your group, we strongly recommend that you use safety tools like lines and veils, the X card, and the open door policy. More information on this can be found on the ttrpg safety toolkit, which is a really good resource page. The I'm expecting that the Candela Obscura might do a similar thing as the Daggerheart playtest material has done it, where they might give you a more in-depth explanation of some of the suggested safety tools for you to use, which is really nice that, you know, they also give it as part of the book already written, so you don't necessarily have to jump somewhere else to look at it. It's really nice. But yeah, when it comes to horror, always, you know, first check with the group, see what are the okay topics, what are the not okay topics, and how exactly should you gauge the aspect of horror when it comes to these types of games. And I say this as someone who comes from some chronicles of, you know, Vampire the Masquerade and Hunter the Reckoning, where weird and unusual and fucked up shit happens. So, you know, we have to be a bit careful about those kinds of things. You know, the Bali embrace was kind of intense, I'll be honest. But yeah, how to use this guide. The information laid out in this document is designed to guide you through the first game of Candela Obscura. Following pages cover the important rules to keep in mind. Generating lore. As long as your creation fits within the parameters here, you are playing by the rules of the world. If you are a player, you are encouraged to read through page 16. If you're a game master or GM, continue through the example assignment. So 16 pages of just all the general things that everyone should be knowledgeable of, and then from 16 onwards, a few more, 10 more pages, or technically 11 more pages of extra content for you to set up as a game master. So, the rules in a more simplified manner. Rules of the world. Candela Obscura takes place in a world that resembles your own. The average citizen neither knows about nor would believe in magic's its effects. So, it kind of has a bit of that kind of hunter-esque vibe. There is a barrier known as the flare between this realm and beyond. There are places where the flare is weakened, referred to as finnings. These finnings allow metaphysical energies, known as magic, to seep through the flare. The myths, legends, and folktales of fairyland are stories created to explain real magical phenomena. So in here, so technically folktales are a representation of what actually is happening. So, rules of magic. But yeah, it is kind of akin to generally the World of Darkness aspect, where, you know, I think where the supernatural are more of a hidden, in this scenario, not necessarily a hidden society, but they're a hidden truth of the world, and only a select, maybe chosen few are knowledgeable about it, but they are probably required or unable to, you know, to show these through to the rest of the world. Again, this really, we'll have to look into, like, I'm guessing there's going to be some setting guidelines to see kind of how exactly these happening, and I'm pretty sure, like, the details within the setting will probably give you even more know-how. But I'm pretty sure for those who come, especially for those who come from something like the World of Darkness settings, would probably be very comfortable with these concepts, or familiar at the very least with these concepts and how exactly to approach them. That's interesting, and I really like the aspect that, you know, folk tales and all legends and myths are a representation of the supernatural within this world, because that gives you a lot of places for you to obtain, you know, inspiration and get that inspiration from. You can just look through real life folk tales. Like, if you don't necessarily want to do the specific setting that is in here, or maybe you want to take an existing folk tale and maybe adapt it to this setting to a degree, and kind of and showcase it that way, that could also be really interesting. So yeah, it already kind of gives you it already hints you to where you can look for inspiration without even having to tell you much about it. Now, the rules of magic. Magic can be infused in mundane objects, places, or beings, permanently altering them. If a finning is opened wide enough, creatures from beyond may also come through. Anything affected by magic or from another realm is known as a phenomenon. A bleed is the corrupted force left behind by powerful magic. This bleed also radiates from the phenomena that have made incursions into the world. When a person has too much bleed, they may be taken over by these supernatural forces, become corrupted, or even die. These manifestations of bleed varies based on the phenomena. People with inherent magic are rare in the mundane world. Many Candela Obscura members interact with magic by wielding powerful artifacts. These items may also reduce, contain, or eliminate bleed. So there's definitely kind of this risk-reward element of these powers that can be wielded, but it definitely has a bit of more of that kind of hunter flair, or at the least hunter 5 flair, where overall most investigators are mundane people, but they might wield powerful equipment, powerful magics, which is maybe an in-betweener between not being necessarily fully imbued, but not just being a guy off the street with just a shotgun and a dream, hoping that, you know, they can fight the horrors. They're very least equipped with powerful items. So I guess this could be an interesting in-between. I'm curious to see if not sure if this quick starter guide would offer it. Maybe it's something that is part of the main book. If there are options or character paths for you to explore of being a magic user, and what exactly would that entail, and if there are any risks to it. I'm suspecting that might be a kind of a risk reward, or, you know, yeah, you're using these powers but you're giving something in return kind of thing. Or if they're not, hey, this could be an opportunity for people who want to explore that concept to create something of their own. That's cool. Yeah, rules of Candela Obscura. Members of Candela Obscura are investigators of supernatural phenomena, attempting to protect the world from these dangers by securing and studying them. So they are very kind of scholarly-like, in a sense. The organization has a hierarchy that includes a council of lightkeepers who direct the resources of Candela Obscura, a small party sent by a lightkeeper to investigate a phenomenon is known as a circle. This mission is known as an assignment. So basically kind of have the terms. Lightkeeper is the game master, the circle is the party, and the assignment is the session or the campaign. I think, if I'm not mistaken, assignments are designed to be like session long, not necessarily campaign long. So I think the assignment is more akin to a session. There are Candela Obscura chapters, local enclaves of many members throughout the world. Each has access via thinning to the organization's transdimensional vault, known as the Fourth Pharaohs. The Fourth Pharaohs is the fourth iteration of a lighthouse stronghold that sits within the flare. Inside there are vaults where the most powerful books, artifacts, and phenomena are kept for safety. The security of these vaults is maintained by century-old, constantly turning magical astrolabes. So I'm guessing it's basically a constantly shifting some like security system where I'm guessing the access or the password is never the same for a long period of time. But yeah, very akin overall kind of hunter, but a kind of more organized hunter. To be fair, even within the hunter or within the WOTS setting, you can, especially with the rise of technology and the rise of interglobal communication, yes, you have access to like hunter organizations, aside from the the actual orgs that those are like government operated or government ruled, which those are good and bad. There's a reason why the most important hunters in most of the hunters that you see portrayed are those who are mostly solo acts, because there are some themings and some narratives mentioned there where hunter government ruled or interest ruled the hunter organization have their own problems, or if you want to look at other kind of more somewhat government akin organizations out there that are not hunter but are still within the WOD. Look at the technocracy. Anything technocracy related, it's never on the up and up. It's kind of shady. Yeah, kind of where somewhere between that, but here I guess with more the intent of we are overall an organization here for the study and securing of phenomena. That doesn't mean that it's purely good. There might be people out there with their own self-interest within the organization that, you know, want to study them for specific reasons and all that kind of thing. So, you know, there's a lot of potential, even create conflict within the actual faction, if that's something you want to study. But yeah, general, to be fair, rules here that are meant more as rules of the overall setting of what exactly to kind of generally know how the nomenclature and how things work within the setting and within the game, and how to kind of approach them on a surface level basis. But these are not mechanical aspects, because yeah, the remainder of this document is designed as a source of inspiration to build your own adventures with more guidance and tools in the Candela Obscura core rulebook. The quick starter guide includes a first look at the world, the secret society itself, additional organizations for Candela Obscura to encounter, and the full example assignment you can run through or customize for your own investigation. This guide is a tool for you to utilize rather than a set of edicts that must be followed. Again, similar to how they've I think worded it in Daggerheart. These are guidelines, not set in stone rules for you to follow, as any other TTRPG should be. If you don't like some aspect of the game or you want it to play out differently, go ahead, do it. It's your game. Nobody cares. Like, as long as you and the group are having fun unanimously, then go ahead and do that. Nobody should care. Like, don't. If it's there to serve the fun and fairness and the enjoyment of everyone involved, then that's completely valid, viable, and should be done. Yeah, no reason to worry about it. Yeah, but yeah, that kind of covers the general things. Again, we're probably gonna just go through most of this today, and that's probably gonna be it for Candela Obscura, because unfortunately, again, if I want to, first of all, if I want to cover the full game, I first need to get the actual game, which, you know, I do have a throne link for it. Like, if you go through my throne, I think I still have it linked to there as a thing that you can help, you can donate towards and help me, you know, get it. But again, right now I have other pressing financial things than, you know, you donating something to my throne to feed my TTRPG addictions. Right now, first, if you are willing to donate in any way, as I said before, I would first encourage you all to maybe look throughout to the Ko-fi page and go there first before doing anything TTRPG related, because there's no rush. I already have other books and other TTRPGs that I'm open and willing to run, and that I don't need to acquire, that I already own. So there's no need for, you know, any financial involvement for anything of that nature anytime soon. If I want to start covering TTRPGs, there is gonna be a point where I'm gonna be probably out of TTRPGs to cover, so there's gonna be something to check out. Although, to be fair, from what I've seen, their Demiplane recently announced that they've released a free access, you know, SRD for Daggerheart. So maybe at some point we're gonna look at that, just to see how they cover, you know, the freely available, you know, content that is covered by Daggerheart. That'd be nice. Because again, I want, at the very least, if it's something similar to what I'm doing here, of showing something of Candela Obscura, then, you know, or something of Darrington Press, I'm probably gonna show something similar to here, like a quick starter guide or something that is. Daggerheart has its own SRD, system reference document, which is freely available, and I think we can use that instead. But no, we'll see about that, how exactly that thing's gonna go. But yeah, now that we looked at kind of like the general approach of the setting and a quick summary of what the game is, let's see how exactly it has to be played. So, mechanics. Preparation. Candela Obscura is played in a series of assignments given out by a circle's lightkeeper, character played by the game master. Yeah, the lightkeeper is the GM in this situation. Each assignment is a mystery that should last between 1 and 3 sessions. So assignments that are actually a session long, but they can be designed to be a one-shot type of thing, and come to a conclusion before the next assignment begins. All player characters or PCs will need one of the 5 pre-generated character sheets available alongside this quick starter guide and 9 6-sided dice called D6 for short. So yeah, this is a D6 system, a bit more simplified. 3 of these dice should be of a separate and distinct color. These will be referred to as gilded dice, and the remaining 6 will be known simply as standard dice. Your group will need a circle sheet for the team as a whole, and we recommend supplying field guides for each player for referencing during the game. These are also included alongside the quick starter guide. So yeah, I think it's going to be a bit more in-depth detail about the circle sheet, but if I remember correctly, the circle sheet represents kind of the overall progress of the group, the team, because again, you are a circle of investigators, which all have a common goal to achieve, which is the assignment. So, you know, you already have the incentive as a team, and by doing that, you progress, you advance within that circle sheet to some advancement. Also, additionally, you will need a game master to run the session. Their job is to guide the narrative, control all non-player characters on NPC, and describe the world as it does. Now, for dice mechanics, Candela Obscura uses the Illuminated Worlds D6 dice pool system. When there is a question of whether something will happen, and there is a potential of consequence, if it doesn't, you'll make a roll using this pool of dice and take the highest result. So I'm guessing you're rolling the 6d6s. On a 1 to 3 result, the roll is a failure. Don't accomplish what you wanted, and there are consequences. I'm guessing actually you probably roll an amount of dice equal to maybe some sort of that, but you're up to like 9, I'm guessing. And I'm guessing those gilded dice are used for scenarios. I'm not familiar with the system myself, so we'll see. On a 4 to 5 result, the roll is a mixed success. You accomplish what you wanted, but it comes at a cost. On a 6, the roll is a full success. You get what you wanted without any major unintended consequences. On multiple 6s, the roll is a critical success, and you get what you want and something extra. That will be considered as the crit. Now, as actions represents your character's proficiency at a given maneuver under pressure. Each can have a rating between 0 to 3, denoting the number of dice you roll when performing that action. The higher the value, the more skilled your character is in that area. If you have no points in an action and you decide to spend drive to add dice to the roll. If you pay 5, you can still attempt the action. In that case, you roll 2 dice and take the lower result. Note that you can't get a critical success on this kind of roll, even if you roll 2 6s. It's going to be considered a success. Try to spend a drive, you add the dice, and decide not to spend the drive to add the dice to the roll. You can still attempt the action. In that case, you roll 2 dices and take the lower result. Technically, you are doing it at a disadvantage, while with I mean that if you do it with 1 dice, you also roll 2 dices, but you get the higher result. That's what I'm understanding. You have no point denoting the number of dice you roll when performing that action. Oh, because you roll a dice, that means whatever result. Technically, yeah, if you roll 2 dice and choose the lowest, it's technically disadvantage. It's a higher chance of you getting a lower result than just rolling 1 dice. So yeah, anyway, fine. And then he wants to check the room if the crowd is closely watching the circle. The game master tells her to make a survey roll. He has a rating of 1, so she rolls 1 die. Okay, confirmed it. Fine. Then, after that, we have drives, which are a resource you may spend and replenish during a session. These represent your character's ability to push themselves past their standard capacity. You can spend 1 drive point to add an additional die to roll to a roll of an action that the drive encompasses. You may spend as many drive points per roll as you have available. For example, if you're rolling with move, you may spend points in nerve to add additional dice. Your dice pool can never have more than 6 dices. So you still technically have a cap, but you can add up to that cap no matter. You don't necessarily have a limitation of adding just 1 drive. You can add 2 drive, 3 drive, 5 drive, as much as needed to get you to that 6 dice pool cap, if that's what you want, of course. All drives have a maximum, which determines the highest amount of points your characters can have in that drive. Your sheet displays the amount currently available. There's a number of dice that will decrease as you spend the available points. Another player can assist you by spending 1 of their own drives for 1d6, though an assisting player can only spend 1 drive per roll. Multiple players can help you carry out your action, so a group of players can do each of them a drive, so you can have multiple rolls. When another player offers their aid, they should describe what they do to assist the character within the narrative. So it's not just, oh yeah, here's a drive. Like, how do you do it? And if it is at the game master's discretion whether or not the circle members are able to help. Yeah, nerve can add dice to move, strike, and control rolls. Cunning, you can add dice to read, sway, and hide rolls. And intuition, you can add dice to survey, focus, and sense rolls. Yeah, you have like categories of. I'm guessing these are stats, and these are the action rolls that are under that stat. I'm guessing. In those, we already kind of received an example here. Survey means search, track, spot. Focus is inspect, analyze, remember. Sense is attune, channel, reveal, which I think this is more, I guess, mystical out of the 3. Intuition, while for the nerve, move is run, dodge, navigate. Strike is punch, break, knock down, very physical, and control is drive, shoot, finesse. And we also now kind of giving an idea of what exactly that diamond square is and why here it's filled in. Gilded actions. If an action is marked as gilded, represented by a filled diamond to the left of the action, you will always replace a standard die with a gilded die when rolling. If you choose the result on that die, you recover 1 point drive associated with the action you roll. Okay, so if your gilded die is the highest result, that means that you get a drive back. So that's a way to generate drive. This represents your character's ability to recoup themselves after pushing their limits. You may choose the gilded die with the goal of recovering the drive point, even if the result is lower than one of the standard die rolled in dice pool. So, there's even a bit of like strategic choices. So if you want, I guess you can forego like a success or like a critical strike or like a critical success in order to generate resource. For example, a cat rolls with control to see if their character can successfully pick the lock on a door. They have 2 points in this action and it is gilded. They choose to spend a nerve drive to add an additional die. So they roll 3 dice, one of which is gilded, and choose a result. 2 standard dice roll a 3 and a 6, and the gilded rolls a 5. Cat could take the full success, but instead they choose to replenish 1 point of their nerve and take the mixed success, the gilded die instead. One question, I might have just forgot as I was reading. Represents your character's ability of by a filled diamond. You'll always replace a standard die with a gilded die, rolling choose the result on that die. Okay, but my question is, why do you have 3 of them? Maybe it's gonna be mentioned later down the line. But yeah, you also get a representation of what exactly, how exactly drives are represented. These are your max amount of drives, and these the small squares to keep track of your max drives, while the bigger rectangles represent your current amount of drive. One should be a way to kind of fill in that is easily erasable and add, and you can easily add. Well, there are more. These are permanent. Yeah. You also have resistances. Resistances are a player character's way of pushing back against a consequence. Anytime you don't like the result of your roll, you may choose to spend a resistance pertaining drive, nerve, cunning, intuition, and you have 1 resistance per free maximum drive. This resistance does not go away if you spend your drive points. For example, if your maximum drive is 4, but you're spent free drive, now you have 1, you still have your 1 resistance. I see. So once you feel once you feel 1 square of 3 squares of this, you fill in this. Once you feel 3 squares of this, you still fill 1 this. But this is not determined of your current. This is determined by your maximum. After spending a resistance, you re-roll the number of dice equal to the rating of the action used for previous roll. You may not include the dice from any spent drive or assistance you initially received. The action is gilded, you may still roll with the gilded die. If the action you are re-rolling has a value of 0, you roll 2 dice and take the lower result. You must accept the results of the new resistance roll unless you spend another resistance again. Yeah, you no longer, you re-roll, but you no longer use the additional bonuses that you added to the roll, either your existent, either the drive bonuses from you or your party, but at the very least you can still benefit from the gilded die, which is a way for you to at least generate drive if you want. But again, it's not like you're gonna double generate drive, like you do a roll, you pick the gilded because you choose which you want to prefer. But yeah, you must accept the new resistance roll no matter what. As an example, Carlos has 1 point in strike and spends 2 points in nerve to roll 3 dice. The highest result is 3, so he decides to spend a nerve resistance roll. Yes, he has only 1 point. A strike, he re-rolls 1 die, the new result is a 4, a mix success instead of a miss. Yeah, good example. He had 1 point, he added 2 more drive, get 3 dice. Not unlikable result, unlikely unwanted result. Chose to resist, roll 1 dice because that's all they have, because they cannot add their spent drive to it, and get a 4. Yeah, that's completely fine. And abilities are unique moves available to each character for the purpose of the quick start character guide. You only have 3 abilities available on each pre-generated character sheet, and I'm guessing you're gonna face them at you're gonna see them at the character sheet, so that's fine. Then you have roles and consequences. The primary engine of the game is built around actions. Actually, wait. I don't think I'm gonna wait. I think I'm gonna hold off from this and speed up a bit in a few minutes from now, because I see that we're getting an ad notification. But yeah, overall, yeah, it's basically this. From my understanding, this drive section, you have 1 for each of these. So So you have one set for nerve, you have one set of these for cunning, and you have one set of these for intuition. So you basically have a resistance for each of them. That's my current understanding of it. Why they chose to resist with nerve, resist with plus I'm guessing these are the resistances are also something akin to if we were to compare like a saving throw. So if you have like a wisdom saving throw, this is the nerve specific one, then you have a cunning specific one, and then you have an intuition specific. It's not a generic drive, is not a generic resource. You have a set of drive. So basically, depending on how these stat points are placed, you might have more resources, more drive to spend in one section than the other. But I'm guessing that's where the free gilded die come from, because you have one gilded die that represents each of the drives. I'm guessing that's why. So I wonder if there is a scenario. Maybe there is a scenario at some point, or maybe that's something that's gonna be important for the core rule book that is mentioned not in the quick starter guide, where 3 gilded dice at once are present, why you would need 3 of them. Or there are scenarios where 3 of them are going to be used at once. Because yeah, you can use them in a reroll, but you just pick the rolls and reroll again, because you can keep in mind what would have been the one that you were more willing to do. But I guess just in case, you could keep those as a reference and roll a separate gilded die, so at the very least you can still have everything displayed out. Maybe that could also be a reason. I can see that. Why not? But yeah, I'm gonna take a quick break now, as an ad is about to pop up, and then we're gonna continue about roles and consequences. And after that, I'm guessing we're also gonna get a quick summary on how to make a character, or at the least what are the components of a character within Candela Obscura. So yeah, I'll see you in a few minutes. Okay, there we go. So now that we're done with this, the general parts of abilities, what your stats represent, all that, what exactly happens when you are rolling these effective stats, how exactly you approach the results and the possible upcoming consequences. Yeah, roles and consequences. The primary engine of the game is built around action rolls, sorry. These occur during moments within the narrative when the results of the player decisions are unclear. Action rolls should not be used for every move character makes. Again, if it's something mundane or something that is easily achievable by the character, there should be no reason for the character to do a roll then. It should only be where the consequence or the failure of it would actually have a significant impact to the player, and if not even the entire group. Yeah, investigators in Candela Obscura are competent and highly trained, more than your average person within the setting. You shouldn't roll dice for unhindered actions, such as walking down the street or climbing a ladder. That being said, if you're trying to remain hidden or there's a monster chasing you, it's probably going to require a roll to avoid danger once you do it. Yeah, rolls for things that definitely require skill and might have a significant consequence on a failure. Than just, I don't know, you're walking on the street funky and whatever. Like, there's definitely gonna be, I don't know, you trip and fall and eat shit, I guess. Who knows? Ultimately, it is up to the game master to decide when dice are rolled and which actions are used. However, as a player, you can make suggestions or ask for a roll to achieve a desired result. Remember, this game is a conversation. Be open about it. Like, hey, game master, can I make X? Like, no, you don't, it's also important how you approach it. Like, hey, game master, can I make X roll to do Y? Not, game master, I'm gonna X roll and this is my result and this is what, so do I succeed? No. First, ask about, like, what role you want and what exactly you want to achieve. If needed, maybe add a bit more details if the game master asks of, and then game master then makes an arbitrary decision of should should this be the role, or should it be another role? And again, with all the yes and no but kind of rulings. Again, it's either yes and or no but, not necessarily no and that's it. You don't like completely undermine and anything of the sorts. And then, you know, then again, you let it to the player to decide if it in the scenario of a no but, to then put it forward to the player and be like, okay, you can't do it the way you suggested, but I can give you this suggestion. Are you okay with it? You want to go with that? The player can be like, oh yeah, sure, that's okay with me, I can do that. Or the player will be like, nah, that's not not really how I want to do it, so I'm gonna pass. Like, either are completely valid. The game master sets the stakes of the role low, normal, or high to indicate how dangerous the consequences may be, and tells you which action to roll. You roll a number of dice equal to that action rating, plus any additional dice gains from spent drive points, and the game master determines how the fiction evolves based on your result. By default, the stakes of every roll are normal. There could be important consequences of failing. The game master may lower the stakes if the situation is safe, or raise the stake if the situation is particularly dangerous. Consequences of a low stake roll won't put you into immediate peril, whereas consequences of a high stake roll will almost always result in taking damage. Or finding yourself in very difficult positions. Is it damage with a double D? It is. Spelling error, are you sure you're okay to be back so quickly? I'm worried about you. I'm fine, thank you for the catch. Okay, I think that was in. I love the weirdly meta. I love it. I haven't actually read the other one. I'm curious. Like equally meta, because there was like one. Is this from our send? Yes. Yes, stairs, sir. What? Yes, stairs. Yes, stairs, sir. Okay. Good. Mechanics. Back here. So, when it comes to related to damage, when it comes to fighting enemies, Candela Obscura favors investigation over violent confrontation. That is to say, though, you will fight monsters, and we certainly hope you will fight many. Combat is not the focus of the gameplay. Just like any other portion of the adventure, when your circle faces off against enemies, your game master will make moves based on your player's rolls. The consequences of a failure, or even mixed successes, might result in the adversary attacking the character and dealing out one or more marks. The game master may even surprise you with unexpected consequences based on your result. Yeah, I guess the system itself is a lot more free-flowing when it comes to you know, what are the results and consequences of your rolls, even in scenarios of combat or general like investigations or other forms of actions. Although I'm expecting that maybe in case of some creatures that might be statted out or killed, they might offer some guidelines or some suggestions, like what exactly does the creature do on certain mixed results, actual failures, and that sort of thing. But it definitely feels a lot more like where, you know, the dice and the rulings are more of a tool and a way to kind of, for you to then interpret, are more of an interpreting tool to help you guide the narrative, which that is general, that is applicable to all ttrpgs. But in here, you don't have like a set way of saying necessarily how you succeed, how you fail, and what exactly are the consequences. It's still it's open from interpretation from the get-go, even at aspects that you might see as being a lot more hard set, or definitely more or more heavily structured. or within certain constraints or guidelines, like, you know, combat, where, you know, you have turns, damage dealing, how you attack, how you receive or deal damage, and how anything in between, how that is determined. Here is, I feel like, at the very least from how it's said, it's a lot more free flowing, and it's more about kind of, you go with the flow, you see what exactly are so it's definitely focused more into the roleplay scene of it, where you just have the dice to determine more important parts of the scene, while the rest of it is just purely narrative and character driven. Completely fine. Yeah, it's definitely for those who are more, I think, interested in an open play kind of scenario, where a lot more improvisation, a lot more kind of the cuff scenarios and interpretations come around, especially for, I think, the narrative kind of game master side. But yeah, that's kind of like the general structure, which is fine, which is it covers it pretty quick. Of course, the aspects and the faults of being a quick starter guide, not necessarily the faults, but, you know, limitation of a quick starter guide of having being short and succinct. Some of these rulings are maybe explained in the necessary amount of details to maybe quickly wrap around, because initially I was slightly a bit confused. I was kind of slightly confused how exactly these drives work, what exactly is nerves, what's with all this, and how they are like spread out and all that. But the examples of play that they offer kind of then solidify the understanding, so it's completely fine. I'm telling you right now, if they wouldn't have these kind of examples of play here kind of written out, at least from my perspective, I think there were some points with which I would have had a bit of a hard time to kind of like wrap my head around, because again, as you see here, you get like snippets of what is the character sheet, but if I would probably also have the character sheet in full display as these rules are told, maybe I would better understand it, because it's definitely, some of it, it's also kind of visually represented. But, you know, it's also shown, or at the very least given as a separate. It is given at the very least separate. Second. Circles. These are the pre-gens. Yeah, there we go. Just to kind of quickly. You have like a blank one. Oh no, they're not blank. They are already pre-made. Yeah, you have the role, the specialty. We're gonna go into it, but yeah, you have you know, you have drives for each of them, resistances each, and every action for every one of them, and of course the abilities for your role and specialty, which here they show you what you have available for as part of your pre-gen, because anything else is then, you know, available in the game. Fine, you know, here, scars, relationship. We're gonna go into it right now with character creation, but yeah, you have quite a few. I think it's one to kind of, at the very least, offer you each specialty and each role, at the very least, showcased to some archetype combo. You know, scholar, professor, link, criminal. You know, weird occultist. So yeah, definitely in a more kind of archetypal way. Role, muscle, and explorer. Yeah, because we already kind of looked, so why not let's also go through the character creation, because we'll have 10-ish more pages. So to build a character, when making a character, you can choose from any of the 5 roles: face, muscle, scholar, slink, and weird. Each of these roles have 2 specialties. Oh no, the specialties are related to the role. Okay. Face can be a journalist or a magician. Muscle is an explorer or a soldier. Scholar is a doctor or professor. Slink, criminal, or detective. Weird is a medium or occultist. Any combination of these roles can make up a group of Candela Obscura Investigator known as a circle. Each role and specialty provides starting values for actions and drives, as well as a list of available abilities. For the purpose of this quick starter guide, we will not go through the standard character creation. The 5 included character sheets are pre-generated. They only require a small bit of customization after choosing your specialty. Fill in the bolted circles when then take one of the 2 abilities from the specialty list. You will have one from your role as well. Add a name, pronouns, and style of this for this character. Describe their catalyst, why they joined Candela Obscura, and their question, what grand or personal mystery they're hoping to answer through their investigation. So, you know, you're not there for just the common goal of the organization as a full circle, but you also have your own drives and you know, motivations for why you are an investigator and why exactly you are here to study. What exactly are you looking to study, and what exactly do you want to solve, if there is something you want to solve. You know, you solidify yourself within the society and within this type of you know, I guess this type of organization and workload. Like, there's something for you specifically, not just for the greater good of the organization. Now, on character creation, when crafting your character, it is crucial to avoid the harmful stereotypes often present in the historical or horror genres. For instance, if you're creating an explorer, they should delve into their own cultural history instead of appropriating others. Similarly, mediums should not use other cultures' attires as costumes. Yeah, it is. Doctors should not indulge in any historical practices that are rooted in racist or ableist ideologies. Although player characters may be ill-disposed, tactless, or even cruel, always strive to construct your protagonist with integrity. So, you know, you don't necessarily... Yeah, just because you're following a stereotype, it doesn't necessarily have to be a harmful stereotype. Nobody is saying that all, you know, if you're playing Explorer, doesn't mean that you have to necessarily follow the historical way of how explorers deal with things. You can do something a bit more with integrity to something because at the end of the day, it's here for everybody to have fun. Because believe me, this will 100% remove the fun of somebody involved. 100%. So be sensible about it. Have a bit of common sense, and make sure that you're not crossing the line with anybody within the group or even outside of the group. Because in many situations, it's not fun. You may think it's fun, it's not fun. It's not fun for anybody else involved, and you are there to, you know, all of you are there to have a fun as a group, as a whole. And if one of you spoils that fun, well, either that problem should be addressed and fixed, or that person should be removed. Out of the two, there is no compromise. In my way, it's either you fix that behavior, or you're getting the fuck out. One of the two. It's never gonna be like a compromise of like, okay, you can do X, but you cannot do Y. No, none of that. Even if you are just slightly lenient, that's still gonna encourage them to act that way and still cause problems. But that's not okay. But yeah, I guess the main aspects of the character creation, which are the role and specialties, are going to be left for the fuller side of the book. So instead, we're just gonna go through the other elements that need to be filled in. So connection gears and marks. Connections are the bonds you establish between the characters at the table during the character creation. Assign a relationship between investigator, ask questions about their shared goals, and interweave characters' backstories to foster more engaging gameplay. In the full game, there is a defined method for building relationships, but for the purpose of the quick starter guide, Simply write the name of a character and your connection to them. For each assignment, choose gear from the available list. The moment it's needed, you do not need to pre-select items. Investigation begins. You may choose free pieces of gears during each assignment. So yeah, you have an overall list, but for each assignment you can only choose free. You can only have free used at the time. You cannot. So like, say for example, yeah, you have 1, 2, 6 here, but within an assignment, only you can choose only 3 of them. And yeah, you do not need to pre-select them, so you only select them once they have been used. So at the very least, that still gives you the flexibility of like, oh no, I chose the survival gear, but a hand weapon or a bleed detector would have been better. Well, that's fine. You don't have that pre-selected, then just have this one. You don't come with anything pre-selected, so basically gives you the flexibility of, and avoids that problem of choosing things that you thought would be useful, but they never came into play. So, and it still gives you a limitation. There's also a blank space you can utilize to make something, to take something significant, an artifact, weapon, etc. Your circle has previously acquired or has access to. You have some custom things that it's up to you or Game Master. Damage to character's health is tracked using marks, which are made up of 3 different categories: body, brain, and bleed. Body represents physical harm, brain represents mental strain or stress, while bleed represents harm caused by magic. It is represented here. There are 3 available marks in each category. If you should ever take if you ever need to take a mark but can't because the track is full, erase all the marks in that track and become incapacitated scene, and immediately take a scar. Scars represent the permanent changes that affect a character. When you take a scar, you write down a narrative change based on the attack, and that caused the scar. If it's a body, it might be a limp or a missing eye. If it's a brain, might become withdrawn or reckless, and if it's bleed, perhaps you're always dripping with black ichor, or your body grows small luminous tendrils where you once had hair. Must also remove a point from an action of your choice and add a point into a different action to reflect how your character has changed because the scar they now carry. Can return to the game once your circle gets to somewhere safe. So yeah, you're technically kind of incapacitated and kind of step out. But to be fair, while you're out of the game, while you're out of the scene, I guess that's time for you to kind of think of this. So it's not necessarily that you're not going to necessarily get engaged. It gives you a bit of like breathing room to figure out like what exactly are going to be the changes, and by the time you are back to a normal state in a safe space, you can reveal like what are the changes that happened to your character, and how exactly has your character shifted based on that, or depending on how the assignment for how long the session has run. Maybe this could be a point where once the players reach a safe point, you end it there. You give a bit of breathing room where both you and the player can have a bit of a discussion in case the player might not be fully sure what exactly they want to approach or want to ask for guidelines or second opinions. So you can help out the player, and then by the next session they can fully reveal what exactly are the changes. So again, depends on the scenario situation, and of course it's also completely fine to like just quickly take a break in that moment of save repeat, have a kind of like a one-to-one while the rest of the group can rest for a bit and figure out like what exactly should be the shifts and changes happening to the character. Yeah. Then we have circle mechanics. At a character creation, your group will choose a circle, a name, and ability. After each assignment, the Game Master asks the 3 illumination questions on the circle sheet. And for each answer in the affirmative, the circle earns 1 illumination. The Game Master then asks how many players filled at least one of their illumination keys. These are prompts at the bottom of the character sheet that can guide the roleplay of that specialty and unlock a path forward towards advancement. Okay. If nobody fulfilled any keys, no elimination is earned. If only part of the circle fulfilled theirs, the group earns 2 elimination. If everybody fulfilled at least 1 elimination key, you earn 4 elimination. When the elimination track fills, it is erased and an extra elimination is carried over. Players then choose 2 different character advancement individually, and the circle chooses a circle ability together. The elimination track has milestones on it, represented by the bolded circles. Achieving these milestones may cause certain abilities to activate. During assignments, players also have the chance to clean their marks, refresh their drives, and train their characters by spending their available Candela Obscura resources. So yeah, you have Stitch to heal all of your players' marks. You have Refresh to fill all of one player's drive, and you have Train to gain 1 bonus die that you can use on any roll in the next session. The circles start with an amount in each of these resources equal to the numbers of circles, members plus 1. These resources are not refreshed until the elimination track is completely filled, so use them wisely. Okay, so these are the resources you can use them to. Each of them costs a circle, and you have a total of how many players you are plus 1, and only refresh after you have completed a track. And let me see, because I also have a track available, so let me do that. There we go. So elimination questions and keys. Ask these at the end of every assignment. For every yes, fill a point of elimination track. So for example, I'm guessing it starts clockwise. Did you contain or destroy a source of bleed? Did you provide comfort or support to those affected? Did you bring something of importance back to Candela to study? Earn 2 elimination points if some, but not all, players fulfill the elimination key. During the sessions, earn 4 for if every player fulfilled at least 1 key during it. If nobody fulfilled any of their keys, no additional elimination. So yeah, you have eliminations for the questions and also elimination for the keys, which here are the elimination keys. Study an artifact, discuss history, run into danger, consult arcane text, collect oddities, act bizarre. So yeah, you have basically the elimination keys are kind of a drive for you to kind of role play, or kind of encourage certain role play out of your character, while this is here to kind of encourage certain goals that the team should achieve, or at the release. Then circle abilities. Choose 1 at character creation and 1 each time a circle advances. You have simultaneous training. Your circle has 3 gilded dice at the beginning of every assignment that you may add to any roll. Once a die has been rolled, it is expended. So that's why you need more gilded die, because you can obtain a gilded die from this. Nobody is left behind. Whenever a member of your circle takes a scar and drops in capacity, any roll a player makes in scene, protect them gets an additional dice. Fortune Fire. When you help an ally on a roll, if they don't succeed, you both earn 1 drive point choice. And interdisciplinary. When choosing a new ability during character advancement once per campaign, each player may choose an ability, character or specialty outside of their own. Okay. which is kind of basically a multi-class option. Resource management: when your circle hits a milestone on the elimination track, earn back 1 stitch, refresh or train resource. And one last run: when you select this ability, next time you fill your elimination track, your circle will retire from Sorcerous. Everyone takes all 4 options during the character advancement. Wait, when you say everyone takes all 4 options, character, when you select this ability, the next time you will fill your circle. Oh, okay. The entire circle retires. Everyone takes all 4 options during this character advancement. Okay, what options? Character creation time. Oh, I think this is it, the character advancement. Okay, I was a bit confused because it starts with your abilities before you get into this. But yeah, you have circle advancement. When the illumination track is full, you clear the track. The leftover illumination counts towards your next advancement circle. Then choose a new circle ability, and all players can choose character advancement options, which are below. All the circles represent milestone, which may have mechanical benefits depending on what abilities your circle chooses. So, when a character advancement at a character advance, each player can choose 2 different options. So, add 1 action point, add 2 drive points, take an ability, or guild an additional action. So basically on one last run, you get all of them to basically kind of give you a quick boost to kind of make this final run successful. And if you achieve it, that's going to be it. So I guess it's a cool way to kind of also give a narrative goal, an in-world kind of like timer, like, okay, we're getting close to our conclusion. And once we are there, we are just going to retire. Which is a neat way of kind of, you know, sunsetting, or at least sunsetting a campaign, which is nice to have it something kind of like built in. Now, as Candela Obscura resource in each of the following, fill in both sections, top and bottom, equal to the number of your circle members plus 1. During this assignment, each player may spend up to 2 resources of their choosing. When the resources are used, only erase the top section. Okay, so for example, if you are a group of 4 players, you fill up each of them up to here, and you can choose to deplete 2, but this is a common resource pool. So if you're using all the stitches, next time a new stitch require a new stitch, you won't have access to it, and this is going to be refilled once you achieve an advancement. So it also kind of, this is like another incentive of, you know, why, you know, you should follow, make sure that, you know, these questions get answers, and you also achieve your own illumination keys. So that way, you know, it's equally encouraging, you know, following the narrative, and also making sure that, you know, you're playing within your role, you're following, you're in some way engaging yourself actively, even as a character, not only as a team member. You know, good tools to you know, to push the narrative forward. What ended up happening to her? Did she go unbridged? Interesting. Interesting indeed. And I think finally, because this might be the last thing before, yeah, this is the last thing before getting into the setting aspect. So we have scars and the legacy of harm in horror, because we also mentioned that, you know, you will get scars if you lose the if you mark up, if you have too many marks, if you fill up the marks in one and get an additional fourth one, you're gonna receive a scar. So when a player character takes a scar, we encourage the player to look deeply at their character, consider the way they might change throughout the campaign. You might say, my character was injured and now walks with a limp, so I'm moving a point from move and putting it into survey. My character has new mobility constraints and experiences pain, so they will be slower on their feet. They will also be more observant of their surroundings because they want to avoid danger and protect their fellow circle members from harm. Yeah. The Strixin? The mouth splits down the throat, allowing it to swallow large animals whole. Ah, how lovely. I don't know, sorry, I was looking at this. Equally, you might decide, my character was injured and now walks with a limp, so I'm now moving a point from survey and putting it to move. My character is afraid of being injured again, so they know how to get out of the way of attacks and are quick on their feet, because they are experiencing a new fear as a result of their injury. They're more focused on moving quickly than staying observant of their surroundings. So, you know, you can also flip it around, but, you know, give it a reason why that is. When you make a choice regarding your character's injuries, remember, people are affected by harm in myriad of ways. Disability and mental illness are facets of human experience and are not convenient narrative bits behind evil actions or evil people. Players should build their characters with care so they can explore the world of Candela Obscura to the fullest. Yeah, just because you have a disability or a some sort of mental illness, that does not mean you are all of a sudden an asshole. No, you're just an asshole, period, with or without it. And it has nothing to do with this new acquired disadvantage and equal advantage, because yeah, you lose something in one thing but you gain it in another. So yeah, the scar, you know, you're not actually fully losing a point, you're just shifting around your resources in a way that feels meaningful to the character. Due to the legacy of harmful mental health representation in the horror genre, we'd like to clarify. Brain marks represent mental and emotional stress. In the same way, a week of long work days, a friend receiving an injury, or witnessing a death, violent or otherwise, would weigh on a person in your world. Candela Obscura members face stressors and traumatic events that impact them beyond the immediate moment. If a character takes a brain scar, consider how traumatic or stressful events they've experienced will affect them long term. I've only heard stories about these. You see one? Yes. He nearly took my arm off. He nearly took my arm on the western cliffs. I have one of her teeth in my office. Damn. Dagger changes from scar may manifest in a variety of ways, such as my character misused magical artifact to devastating effect, is now overwhelmed by high-stakes decisions. Because of this experience, they are even more dedicated to become a master of their arcane artifacts, spend all their free time training. I'm going to move a point from control to sense, because they are now focusing their studies on magical rather than the mundane. Or, my character saw a beast explode out of an innocent civilian. They are now confronted with their own mortality and they're hesitant to confront the danger once eagerly faced. This experience has also made them especially protective of their fellow circle members. So now they are meticulous plans for every situation. I'm gonna move a point of strike to survey because they are slower to action and more observant. Or my character failed to save a friend from magical harm. In their state of grief, they exhibit outbursts when they feel out of control. At the same time, they are incredibly empathetic. After this experience, they're especially good at talking with witnesses. Because my character is too distracted after their loss to behave subtly, I'm going to move a point from hide to read. We can now connect more deeply with others. So yeah, there are many ways to look. But yeah, this is definitely scars are definitely a moment of introspect for your character to see how both it affects you and how that shift in in perception relates to also your party. And of course, it can be in a sort of positive spin, like yeah, because of these new traumatic events that have happened to my character, they are now acting in a different way that is beneficial for both them and the character, that showcases that shift in behavior. And you can, then exemplify what exactly are the things that made them shift in such a manner. In our experience, role-playing insanity is neither ethical nor mechanically viable. Scars, especially brain scars, should be understood as change, never a lessening. Yeah, just because your mind got traumatized doesn't mean that, or stressed, or put under severe pressure doesn't mean that all of a sudden it's lessened. It's lesser than it was before. It just requires healing. Then it's gonna, it's more of a temporary thing, or just a shift in how the brain behaves, but it not in a lesson way, just in a different way. While bleed scars may seem removed from this discussion, to treat them with similar care. The addition of magic does not make the experience of harm any less human. Furthermore, we often analogize. That's a word I've not really spoken. We see an analog of what we do not know. Rituals from other cultures, sacred rites, and practices from traditions that aren't our own to be strange or mystical. When crafting the magic in your game, we ask you to design it with empathy. Every table is different, and many may not appreciate having deeply sacred symbol, artifacts, and rituals fictionalized. So yeah, don't necessarily take concepts of a culture and thinking that, oh, they are mystical, without having a bit of sensibility towards it and making sure that, hey, the rest of your group is comfortable with that kind of representation or not, or to be seen this sort of fantasy. Yeah, my characters witness something terrible, and in retaliation, monster cut the pupil of their eye in half. They now see a mysterious apparition overlaid on the mundane world. They are afraid of this change in themselves, but don't feel safe telling anyone about it, for fear of endangering an innocent person. I'm going to move a point from focus to sense, because they now have a harder time perceiving details, but can see supernatural phenomena they've never noticed before. Yeah. We have different ways of how this can be approached, and here you have even a few examples of scars. I love this art piece. Cool. Body scars, missing an arm, a limb, cracked vertebrae, tremor, deafness in one ear, burnt flesh, brain scars, anxiety around crowds, fear of deep water. I killed this one so much. Consumed by guilt, lowered confidence, hero complex, jumpy at loud sounds. Then bleed scars, eyes that don't blink, vampiric teeth, thing, purple blood, ugh. Elongated fingers, elbows that bend backwards, and constantly exhaling smoke. Yeah, definitely ways even with the bleeds, ways that show that the character has changed in a different way, not necessarily in a lesser way, but in a way unexpected or unknown before. For that, yeah, Candela Obscura fights against the corruption of supernatural forces, an allegory for the fight of good, everyday people against the corruption within the world. Mechanics of marks and scars within Candela Obscura are straightforward, but the legacy of mechanizing how people experience harm and disability within the horror genre is not. For each mark, but especially when taking a scar, it is vital importance that players make choices that serve a nuanced narrative over the basic rules. Yeah, it's all about, it's all about like telling a story, telling something about your character, about maybe even about yourself. I think I'm gonna probably paraphrase Brennan Mulligan, because I think they made like a really good analogy of this, that player characters like PCs are basically stained glass. This kind of like and you are basically stepping behind that stained glass, and you're just basically the projection from within that stained glass. Like, you are a hyper focused aspect of that character to some extent. Maybe an exaggeration of a specific trait or set of traits that yourself. Maybe it's a way for you to kind of self-express, or to kind of feel comfortable of acting in a way that you've not necessarily been able to come to act of your own. I'm not saying in a bad way, like, I don't know, aspects of, confidence. You're playing the charismatic character while at the same time you're a very introverted kind of more to yourself type of individual outside of the game, and that's still you acting charismatic, kind of exercising that mental muscle or like social muscle in a safe environment. And again, you can kind of weave around those personal experiences and those narratives within that, like how exactly these aspects, and even more important, especially I feel like it's very interesting, especially when you are trying to enunciate aspects of yourself, even like the ones that could be seen as you being different in this kind of way, but again in a way that you're comfortable with, in a way that it's done to serve a purpose, to serve a narrative, to serve a story, and that also are respectful, done with empathy, done with care, and not there to undermine someone who might be actually dealing with these kind of problems, and you are underrepresenting them, or in some way show like you're making a mockery of it. The idea of permanent scars does not align with the modern understanding of healing trauma, but just like you, consider that your character cannot begin the process of tending the physical, mental, and even magical trauma until they are in a safe place for an extended period of time. Of course, over the course of a campaign, your circle should experience only brief moments of respite. This is a challenging game of horror. If you want to see your character heal from scars they've taken, you might choose to play a different character for some time and return to this one down the road when they've had a chance to recover. Work with your game master to decide which scars they could have healed during the time away. Above all, make choices that will facilitate the story while keeping the well-being of your fellow players in mind. To best explore this world of magic and monsters, we urge you to build and play your characters, prioritizing specificity, humanity, and compassion. Yeah, just because it's horror doesn't mean that you have to be horrible people or represent things in a horrible and downright, unrealistic or uncharacteristic way, or or in a negatively stereotypical way. You're still there to have a good time, of course, under the facility of a horrifying horror-esque experience. But yeah, that kind of covers all the general play and aspects in a very short, succinct way of how exactly Candela Obscura is handled and is played. I don't think I'm gonna go more in depth. I'm not gonna close it out just yet. I'm probably gonna have a quick yap after there's gonna be a break coming up in a few minutes. So yeah, I'm not gonna immediately close it at this hour, so we're still gonna have a quick look at it, or quick kind of closing thoughts over it all. But yeah, I do appreciate this mention of scars and the legacy of harm in horror, and how horror has underrepresented certain aspects. And to be fair, that is kind of true, and this is also true of history. I think the best example that I can offer, and probably a lot of people have heard, how the concept of Fae, especially that kind of like maliciousness aspect of the Fae, doppelgangers and all that, have always been a historical justification for a long time, even in recent centuries, not current century, but past centuries, of kind of demonizing or vilifying the aspects of neurodivergence. Because you've heard that aspect that, oh no, child now is acting differently. It's not acting as they were before, which are signs of, you know, neurodivergent behavior, which at times where that kind of those kind of different mental states were not really understood or studied, were just put under this kind of umbrella of the mystical, of they've been taken by a fairy, replaced by a doppelganger, and in many cases they then become villainized, ostracized from society, from their support circles, and kind of pushed away, and maybe even some tragic ways, maybe even gotten into harm's way because of it. But that's not true representation. Like, okay, it's fun to, you know, maybe do it here and there as kind of like a cheeky nod of it, but not necessarily to be like, oh no, that's how this mental, you know, this mental state, I'm not gonna call it a mental illness, this disability, let's call it like this, because at the end of the day it is in many countries neurodivergence is considered a disability, especially autism spectrum. It's just simply an aspect of the brain just works differently compared to the neurotypical, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it works in a lesser way. It just works under different parameters. And especially within horror, where these aspects of people being different means that they are evil has always been kind of a common stereotype. Of course, this aspect I'm talking about it because, you know, or I guess it's more closer to me in the aspect of neurodivergence. Because hey, I am 100% at very least an undiagnosed ADHD individual, maybe even something akin to being somewhere around the autism spectrum as well. But that one is the one that I'm putting a question mark even myself, because I feel like I would prefer to have a specialist kind of diagnosis on that, and not necessarily just 100% jump at the conclusion. But I definitely have the suspicion. I 100% do. But yeah, then of course we've seen any other aspects, like, you know, characters with certain, I don't know, bodily disabilities also seen as somehow villainous or weird, or best example within media that, you know, that basically shows that basically is a subverting expectation. The Hunchback of Notre Dame, Quasimodo. Yeah, that's subverting expectation. That's that is a narrative, a story talking about someone who's just has a physical deformity that is, you know, showed how, there is the question, who is the monster, who is the man, in the, you know, song of Bells of Notre Dame, you know, Judge Claude Frollo or Quasimodo. And, you know, I think the answer is pretty obvious even within that song. Again, I'm putting the Disney example than the actual the actual story, because I think more people are familiar with Disney story than the original. But yeah, same things, like, you know, we see there's always been, especially in horror, the aspect of a person being different in a physical or behavior kind of way of being associated with weirdness. And I guess, again, like, even like certain stereotypes, like, let's call it, for example, with vampirism or like vampires. Some people kind of like started to kind of pick it together, and like, these are like more kind of signs of somebody being more on the spectrum, or again, some aspects of neurodivergence. They have to be invited in. They don't jump in. The whole thing with the rice having to like number it shows like a weird aspect of like kind of like hyper focus, and, you know, kind of like social faux pas. Like, it definitely has that kind of, you know, aspects, you know, a lot more recluse and not necessarily prefer to kind of stay in their own spaces and not really go outside too much. You know, paler complexion, which that has maybe aspects of genetic, nutrition, how exactly, you know, neurodivergence even affects your body, because it does, because depending on how you act, that also changes how you know, behave with your own body, and you use your body. Many other weird things. So yeah, I appreciate that they kind of made this quick interjection to be like, hey, yeah, it's important to have shifts in characters, but make sure that they are sensible, and make sure that you're not actually misrepresenting and actually, you know, putting harmful perspectives of someone who's just an equal, compassionate, empathetic human being like the rest of you. That's all of it. But anyways, I'm gonna take a quick break as an ad is about to pop up in a few seconds, and I'll return once the ad is over. Yeah, I'll see you in minutes. Okay, there we go. Ad over. We can get back into this. Although, to be fair, I don't think I'm gonna stay for too long and just more of a closing thoughts, that sort of thing, because I'm not gonna go through the settings section of Candela Obscura. I think you know, that's a part that you can look for it for yourself. As I said before, you can have access to this if you go to the Darrington Press website at the Candela Obscura section. I've had the link before, but I'm gonna paste it again in case. You may want a refresher on that. Yeah, but at the bottom of the page, there's a section called resources, and it's gonna give you access to this, and you can, you know, read up the setting of a new fair for yourself. And get a better understanding of all the factions and interplays. Because who knows, maybe you just want to take the system and how it plays, and maybe aspects of the maybe some ideas of Candela Obscura, but maybe you want to build it up into your own setting or your own way of the world, and just do things differently, and don't necessarily care about this. And you know, I think this is more, you know, aspects of, you know, content IP and intellectual property that I don't necessarily want to cover in like cool. That's something that, you know, it's for you to look into. This plus, you know, additional stations, because again, all of this is within in setting. Body horror. Ooh, art though. Again, it's free something before running it for players. Red themes: exploitative capitalism, community versus corruption, corruption of nature, danger beneath thought, industrialism, machinery, electric lights, inventors and capitalists, crowds from around the world, innovation, eerie green glow, incredible poverty, deformed bodies, dreams, adversary, the Radiance Corporation. Nice way to kind of summarize what exactly you would probably deal with in the section. Of course, get story hooks, rival, what exactly you need to explore, and give you like few reveals, aspects, game escalation. I think it's gonna give you like a way to kind of, you know, you'd use this beyond, or kind of have this as a mini template of how an assignment usually runs, and kind of give you a bit of an idea. But again, I'm not looking into this because, as I said before, my interest when it comes to covering these books is to overall offer the necessary the overall requirements of how the game needs to run, and what exactly does the game suggest for you to do as a game master player and as a general play experience. That's all. Anything else, that's up for the group. You know, setting, sessions, what kind of sessions, anything of that, what type of characters and what character selection, monsters, creatures, items, whatever. That's for you to look into and for you to kind of dive deeper in it. My interest here is to kind of just cover the broader strokes of the general overview of a summary representation of and the description of the game, how it's played, how does the player make a character, and how exactly aspects of play run for the player, and what exactly is the game master's responsibility on their side of the table, and what are some tools and some guidelines that they can receive from the book itself. So those are main things that are going to be universally useful to have as guidelines and as help tools. While the setting and campaign running, that can be something completely optional of how, or like campaign, you know, pre-made adventures or sessions or modules or however you want to call them. That's completely, those are definitely optional things that not every group look into it. While the other ones, I feel like they're more essential to do and something worth talking about. But yeah, honestly, for like a quick guide, yeah, very succinct, very to the point, and I like. It's definitely this system is obviously more focused in into the narrative experience and the narrative experience, horror experience, where you know, all the stats, all the roles are there to kind of for you to drive the story forward and for you to kind of interpret what exactly is the next thing that's gonna happen. The roles are there purely for interpreting the next you know, the next page into the story, to you know, to determine the overall pacing, the overall feel, narrative, and end result, consequences, anything of that sense. Not necessarily, it's definitely light in the mechanical, 100%, so it's more out there for you to tell the story. So for those who are more into the roleplay experience, it's more up your alley. I honestly believe that probably for those that play, especially for those who are within the World of Darkness circles and Envtuber, I think Candela Obscura or Call of Cthulhu as well, because I think I feel like it has probably inspiration from both, kind of some of the horror aspects and how, you know, the paranormal or you know, in this case the paranormal kind of affects the mundane, the mundane individual that looking beyond the veil, while at the same time aspects of, you know, hidden society, the unknown world that usually the World of Darkness has, and the interplay between those in the know and those that are not in the know, and how exactly that affects interpersonal relationship, how it affects your approach to the overall world, to your overall perspective as a character, which are always fun, which are always interesting, kind of talk about. And this one, especially for those who probably want to look more into the kind of the hunter experience, kind of like the Hunter 5, where just overall normal people, but while at the same time with a bit of like a supernatural kick, because you have a few supernatural items to your access here and there as you progress into the game, which I'm guessing would be interesting if they had their own kind of like risk elements. Also, like another thing here, I think you could probably, it's still kind of like, but yeah, overall like the quick starter guide, it offers a good selection. I guess I can understand why they didn't necessarily give you like more, slightly more in-depth options of character creation. At least you let you customize, but I feel like at least you can like move some things around, maybe if you feel like that that is something that you want, maybe at the very least with the stats. You know, you have like you know, do like a quick read of your abilities and see how exactly they synergize, and if you feel like it, you could, I feel like you could just swap around a few stats here and there, I think. But you know, if you feel like it, maybe, you know, at the very least, especially for the pre-made assignment here, in case you want to run the pre-made assignment, and you feel like, you know, maybe then I would say keep them as is, because I'm guessing the pre-generated character sheets are somewhat designed with this assignment in mind. You don't have to worry too much about it. But hey, at the very least, you still have other aspects of, you know, things like relationships, gear, notes, aspects of your character, the catalyst in the question that you want to answer, all sorts of things. And definitely, honestly, I think the part that I like is this kind of a goal-driven advancement, where it's not necessarily where the advancement itself, it's not the assignment, but what you've accomplished through the assignment. It's still accomplishment driven, so it's kind of milestone related, but there's a more deeper involvement of the players, and a heavier encouragement for team play, for, you know, engaging yourself into the story, engaging yourself into the narrative, and making you tell a narrative as well, not just be there as a bystander, especially with, you know, with the having the illumination keys from your character is being answered. If every character gets one, at the very least one illumination key, get full additional illumination points, I'll call them points, alongside how many of the free illumination questions you receive as points. So that's really nice. Plus, you know, especially also the additional aspect being that you have a common resource pool when it comes to like improving stats, refreshing your health pool and all that, so again, you're also driven by that as well, because in case you're running dry, you realize that, okay, we really need to push this through. We really need to kind of clench our teeth, hope that everything goes well, and all of us kind of, lock in and make sure that we achieve something meaningful for the next assignment. So now, equally portal plus, all the gear that you have here, which I'm guessing this one is going to be a bit more on the supernatural side, but I'm guessing there could be few here that can be available for the investigators as well. Because to be fair, there are a few, like bleed contained vial, arcane text, a ward which soaks one bleed, which definitely that sounds a bit kind of magical in nature, and everything of that sort. So yeah, honestly, really interesting, and I would love. I think this one might be, because the more I kind of like read through it, and more I kind of look through it, and I kind of was like thinking about it. As someone who kind of got into the, again, I'm putting the World of Darkness because that's the closest I currently associate with right now when it comes to familiarity in. Again, Call of Cthulhu could also be within the scenario as well. But again, from someone who has experience as a player of the craziness that is World of Darkness and how it kind of runs and goes, and thinking on the idea of, should I run my own sessions or my own chronicles or anything of that sort myself, is a bit daunting, more in the sense that not necessarily the game aspects themselves, but there's so much interplay, so much lore, so many weird things. Of course, you can micromanage, you can micro scale it, so you don't necessarily go to, because in our case, yeah, we have a storyteller who's deep down the deep end when it comes to World of Darkness, so she knew a lot more than just the surface level that you'd probably expect out of Vampire the Masquerade, Hunter, and all that. Knew a lot of the deeper ends and knew how to kind of cross-splat a lot of things. So even as vampires, we could or hunters, we could interact and encounter things from other splats, and in ways that were not fun for the characters, fun for us the players, but not the characters. So yeah, and I feel like Candela Obscura could be a way to ease yourself into that type of game where it's more roleplay focused, where the mechanical is kind of more like a tool to push or to kind of like encourage the roleplay. It's a heavier narrative tool compared to maybe something like D&D or Pathfinder, where lots of the mechanical is there to serve more mechanical or more gamey aspects. Although again, narrative storytelling, mechanical storytelling to me, or like narrative through mechanics, is also an important aspect. Like you are capable of these sort of skills, so that tells you something about your character, or your character would probably choose these kinds of skills. So it's not necessarily, at least how I've always approached characters. I've always focused on themes and ideas and concepts, and what I wanted this character to be, even in the mechanical. So even there could be some sort of like I'm gonna broad stroke it, investigator type and all that, but that doesn't mean I'm gonna choose, even if it might be the optimal way, not mean that I'm gonna choose, I don't know, some of the more damage dealing stats. I'm definitely gonna focus a lot more on that aspect of kind of encouraging and pushing more forward to that, I don't know, investigating type of character. For example, again, I'm generalizing, broad stroking, and not using a specific example in specific terms. So yeah, here is a lot more open-ended, more narrative driven, and there to both you and the rest of your group collaborate into telling a story. And yeah, and it definitely simple, succinct, and I think especially for because at the time when it got released, Candela Obscura was the first publishing of Darrington Press, and I think this was like their first dipping their toes into the kind of like the tabletop scene and to create something out there, and starting it a lot easier, a lot simpler. I think it made sense because there is simplicity in the mechanics, but there is depth in the story and depth in the narrative. So even if you don't have a lot mechanically, you have a lot narratively. You can tell. Yeah, definitely for those who are looking more for the roleplay core pillar with kind of the more investigator-esque, kind of exploration-esque aspect of the that you probably encounter in games like Call of Cthulhu. And I would say that this is also a good way to ease you into those kind of into the games that maybe are heavy on that pillar, but maybe have a lot more lore, a lot more storytelling, and even mechanically a lot more to offer. That might require more for you to manage. Because Vampire the Masquerade, for example, like even Mage or some of the other ones have a lot more for you to kind of handle or take care of here. While here, especially at the beginning, you just have one ability to. That's kind of it. You're overall just mundane people with access on occasion with some powerful, weird magical items, and that's kind of it. And the rest is just you telling the story and just making sure that everything is funky dory. Everything creates a fun or pushes towards a fun experience. I'm saying fun experience because horror can be fun. Horror is fun. It's a very human thing. Experience horror in a enjoyable fashion, and doing it alongside the rest of the group, and then later down the line just pushing yourself to maybe other forms. And yeah, I would honestly, I think, because I've thought of all this kind of aspect, that Candela Obscura could be maybe a good way for, especially for those who maybe want to look into the more heavier focused kind of roleplay tabletop RPG system out there. Candela Obscura could maybe be your way to ease yourself in, because it's not a lot mechanical that you need to interpret for the roleplay, and it's more about kind of going with the flow, and first of all, and at first they exercise that general improv both for you as a game master and as a player, and then later down the line you can just jump in to something that has more interweaving layers both between the mechanical and the storytelling. Yeah, I think this could be a good introduction, and because of that I kind of thought that maybe as my first dip before maybe jumping to something more adjacent, more heavier, because again my first TTRPGs that I played and I game mastered, and even to some extent even the ones that I've been a part of as a player, I've been a bit more mechanically heavy. Definitely, yeah, Vampire the Masquerade has been, and Haunted Reckoning have been the more roleplay driven ones, and the ones that I pushed my roleplay a lot heavier than in some of my other games. But especially as a game master, my overall experience has been deeper within the mechanical than necessarily the narrative. So this games like this, which are a lot more simple, a lot more succinct, and don't throw you too much into the deep end, can be a good way to kind of ease yourself into this side, into this game pillar, and to kind of get yourself used to it, and then allow you the confidence and to be kind of build yourself up to feel more comfortable into maybe taking up something that maybe feels a bit more challenging in that area. But I think that is it. I think that kind of covers the quick starting guide and my general overall kind of thoughts about it. Not really sure what else to say, because overall the quick starter guide like covers the basics, and the pre-generator characters can give you enough an idea like how exactly the game kind of runs, and I'm sure like by reading through the sessions and all that, you can also get more of a general vibe of what to expect out of the storytelling and narrative and the horror. But again, those aspects you can tone them, you can adjust them how you feel like they are fit for you and your group. So even within the setting, if you feel like it might be a bit too much or not enough horror for both you or the group, you can dial it up a notch, get a bit get a bit more push offer a bit more out of it. Of course, still make sure that you're not overstepping anything, and keeping in mind of any of all the safety tools that you might use, lines and veils, the X card, or the door policy, whichever you prefer, and make sure that all those are kept in mind, because horror is such a broad topic and it can cover so many aspects that for some can be triggering, for some can cause distress. So it's definitely a topic that you need to be a bit more. You definitely need to know the players that you're playing with. You definitely need to know. To be fair, that is applicable to all types of TTRPGs and games, but definitely for this, because certain types of horror are not for everyone. So you have to make sure that you're not overstepping someone's point of someone's comfort, and kind of putting them in a state of distress, or kind of undermining their own troubles, or just simply make the experience an unfun one. Yeah, those are important. In my but overall, it covers, at the least, it covers the basics in a nice, succinct way. At the very least, the examples of play definitely keep it, definitely make it understandable, so that you don't have to make sure that there's something that you interpret. Again, that, as I said, I'm not putting too much criticism on it, because it's a quick starter guide. It has to be succinct. It's part of it, so I find it completely understandable that it might have sections where you can find it harder to understand, but the examples of play kind of clear any confusion out, so I think that's completely fine. But I'm still curious to see, and probably some aspects of it are covered in the general core book, like why exactly you would need 3 gilded die, if there are any way for you to benefit or to utilize 3 of them at once, and you get something out of it if you have like multiple gilded die that, I don't know, get max results or anything like that, anything special to that. So those are interesting aspects. But yeah, I would 100% recommend it, especially for those who want to ease their way into something more roleplay heavy. And this one, I think, because of its simplicity in the mechanicals and more focus on the roleplay, and within a approachable setting where you can dial it up, where you can dial it up as much as you want, I think, and especially if you want to explore roleplay settings with darker themes, this would be a good starting point. So, at the very least, I would recommend for you to check out the starting guide, maybe try out the assignment with your friends, and then who knows, maybe look into the wider book. I would honestly love to check out the overall big book, all that, but maybe there will be a time at some point when I'm gonna get that opportunity. But anyways, I think this is a good spot for me to end. I hit the general hour of the day, as I said before, because there's not a lot to cover. It's a quick starter guide. This stream might have been a bit shorter, and I think that's completely fine. I don't really see that as an issue. We did have a general Yap Fest and Yap discussion of our own at the beginning, so I think that's completely fine. So we covered 2 hours and a half of just this, which is just a quick starter guide. That's completely fine. Maybe technically, I think maybe more closer to 2 hours, because 2 hours and 15 of just this, or maybe something closer to 2 hours. But yeah, I don't think that's too big of a problem. But before we go away and our own things, let's see who do we have around that we can say hi to. Anybody doing anything? I don't think there's anybody doing stuff TTRPG adjacent or TTRPG related. Maybe at least horror related. That'd be nice. That we can come to. Ready. Down here. Are you doing anything like related? Yeah, I'm still looking. Sorry about that. Bit. Yeah, no, I'm not finding anything that would be from my selection of peeps that is adjacent to it. So let's jump on someone there. So, let's do that. Right it here. Writing this. Okay. Now, wait section. Channel. Boom. Raid. So, we are jumping at Schmoozer Place, playing Blue Protocol Star Resonance. I think is a gacha-esque game, from my understanding. Something of that sort. I guess if you're within that scene, that might interest you to some degree. Now, when it comes to rating, these are the usual messages we send around. The first one is for those who are not subscribed and don't have access to their emotes, while the second one is for those who have access to it. Yeah, the bot is not sub. Yeah, I'm here to copy paste the message, also see how it looks. Emotes. But yeah, that's going to be it for me for today. But anyways, I will see you tomorrow, because we're checking out horror stuff. We're playing Soma, more fictional game stuff. As you know, we've done the entire EJF series as of this year so far. I'm not sure if there's going to be anything within that IP that I see in the future. Who knows? But I think, like, as kind of in theme of it, why not let's go for this October spooky month as well. Why not check the separate IP of the well-known horror indie dev studio. And then that's gonna be for the week, and I'm gonna see you with a new schedule on Monday after that. Yeah, thanks so much for being here. You've been amazing. Don't you forget that. I'll see you on the flip side. Bye.